another episode of UFO Garage.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Joe, and this is where we talk about UFOs, aliens, and all things weird.
All things weird, baby.
All right, dude. So, we've got a returning guest with us tonight, Miss Lorien Fenton.
Yeah.
Say what's up to everybody, Lorien.
Hi, guys. How are you doing? You know, you're starting to change ethnicities every time I'm on the show. I don't know if you're Dread today or if you know what you're up to, but you're sounding very cool. I got to give you that.
I'm going for an Asian thing.
That's even funnier. Anyhow, you guys crack me up. I love your show and I love being on it. So thank you for inviting me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, we missed you. We were thinking like, man, it's been a while since we talked to Lorien, so I'm glad you got our email in time. I know it's kind of last minute, so.
No, I'm really happy to do it because, you know, we're all going to be together in a month. It's actually 1 month from today.
Yeah.
We're all going to Francisco at UFO Con, and I'm so excited for you guys because, you know, we really do have an amazing event going on. I probably should talk about it a little bit, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what we're going to do, UFO Garage is our special guest radio broadcasters this year, and every year I pick somebody to be there and broadcast, and it's just going to be wild, and you guys will get to interview all of the speakers and the people milling around in the lobby and, you know, just hanging out and attending, and I got to tell you guys, the most interesting things that happen at our conference every year is that the radio broadcasters always come up to me at the end and they say, you know, the speakers were great. I loved interviewing them, but the people that attend are even more wild.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, you guys are going to find that the people that attend are actually going to be your star people on your radio show. So it's going to be very interesting for you guys. It's always interesting for the people attending that, you know, saunter over to you and go, well, do you want to hear a story? And then the next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, it's Roswell all over again, right? How does this not happen that, you know, this person isn't like on a stage? That's what always happens. They always come up to me and go, I interviewed 4 people at your conference that should be on a stage telling their story, but they won't do it. Dang. And, you know, there was a big deal to get them to come out and talk about it on the radio show. But, you know, that's kind of the way this whole ball rolls in the UFO community. A lot of people have extraordinary experiences and they just don't want to talk about it. And you'll find the most interesting thing to me at my conference this year is I picked a lot of experiencers to be on the stage. And for most of them, it's their first time ever being on a stage. And thank God somebody out there, and I think it's the aliens, have used me to get to these people and say, it's your responsibility to get on that stage and tell the world what's happened to you. And the biggest problem you've got, though, is they're not scientists, they're not PhDs usually, they're not cops, they're not lawyers, they're not like what people call credible witnesses in the UFO community. And that is a huge problem for us because that stigma has been put on the whole UFO community by the powers that be in the government. Because right now, okay, I'm gonna go into something else just on a tangent, but it's very important to what I'm talking about. Right now, we've got the United States Air Force finally admitting that their their fighter pilots have been seeing UFOs out in the skies for years and years and years. Okay, right. And they following this, right? So they're finally admitting it, but they're saying these guys are credible, what they call some type of witness where, you know, they're like educated witnesses, you know, and so again, they relegate the common UFO contactee to be not as important because they're not a fighter pilot, okay?
Right. Yep.
This is the problem. And I'm like sitting here going, they're defining the narrative about who is important to report a UFO or who's important to report an alien encounter. Okay. Right. That's not cool with me. And that's why That's why I'm putting on my conference the way I do, because I'm putting on people that no one's heard of, no one's heard their story, no one knows anything about these people, and they're going to get up on a stage and tell you what the heck has happened to them. Now, you don't have to believe them, because a lot of them are not. Let's put it this way: they're not articulate, amazing speakers, okay? But they aren't supposed to be. That isn't their job in life. Their job in life is to be a waitress or a truck driver or whatever it is.
Yeah, they didn't choose it, right? They didn't choose for that to happen to them.
Nobody chooses this. This is not. You'll ask every contactee whether if they had a choice not to have this happen to them. 90% of them will say, "I wish it never happened to me."
Wow.
Because at that point, once you're a contactee, your life is never the same again. Your family. Trust me, your family life is never the same again. You're going to lose relationships. You're going to gain relationships. People are just not the same. And I'm not saying it's the best thing that ever happened to people, because a lot of people become very good because of it, and some people just become neurotic because of it. Because how do you integrate into your life the fact that you're talking to something that everybody tells you doesn't exist, but you're touching it and it's real?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a problem, and there's no psychiatry out there to help you with it.
Right.
Except for now, thank God, we've got a lot of hypnotherapists that are going into this field with their eyes open saying, well, maybe this person's not crazy. Maybe there's actually something to it. And we got to thank people like Whitley Strieber and Bud Hopkins and John Mack and the historical historians of the contactee movement, even going back to Adamski and those guys at Giant Rock. It was taken more seriously back then, and if you were a contactee, you weren't considered a kook. You were considered somebody that was kind of blessed.
Yeah.
So let's hope we get back to that again.
That would be nice. You know what's funny about that is, so a couple episodes ago we had Gary Voorhees and PJ Hughes on the show, and I was asking him, I was like, dude, so you being like one of those like credible witnesses, right? Because you were on the Princeton and you ran all this stuff. Do you think like these guys releasing all the well, not all the information, but them finally like accepting the fact that like, okay, we're gonna tell the public all of this some of this information, and now it's kind of like, okay, so that was supposed to kind of take the edge off, and I was like, do you think that leaves open any room for maybe regular people to maybe not seen as such kooks? And it was funny, he was joking around, he was like, nah, you guys are still gonna sound nuts, and like it's funny, right? But at the same time, it's like that is very true. Like, if you're not a police officer or a military person or anybody that you would consider credible, right, you're still always gonna sound like a loony.
Yep. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of groups out there that aren't helping it any. I will say this: MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, who's been around since 1969, they just celebrated their 50th anniversary this year, or last year, 2019. They actually take this stuff seriously. They don't blatantly come out and say, we're all about that, because they're not. They're about the hard science too. I mean, that was our main focus when they started, but within the last 10 years, they have started taking the contactee parts very seriously. They are now reporting the contactee events in their database. When you have an encounter, they actually put in there about the alien encounter and, whatever happened, whereas many years ago, they did not put that part in. They only put the parts in about the ships or the lights or the distance or the ground trace rate, evidence or whatever they were working on, and they never included the alien contact part. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now, in 10 years, we now have a whole group that works with MUFON that are hypnotherapists to help the people who are having alien contact as well. But like I said, they're not out there advertising that this is part of their group, but they are. I mean, all of us that are in it know now that they have that, so we're referring people to them, and it's becoming kind of like a little underground movement within MUFON, and I think it's amazing. And, they can't just run out there and say, oh, yeah, we're all about the contactee now, because if they did, they'd lose their credibility. And at that problem. And then, don't even get me started on what other groups are doing. I don't want to say their names because I'm tired of saying their names. But here's the deal: there's a bunch of groups out there that are run by ex-CIA people, and what they're doing, and I was just telling you guys this before the show, what they're doing is, on one hand, they're saying, okay, everybody, look at the UAPs. We're not calling them UFOs anymore. They're now unidentified aerial phenomena, and they're up there, and just take a look at them and keep your eyes on them, right?
Right.
And while you're doing that, and they've got these TV shows all about how the fighter pilots saw them, and how they're going to go out and look for them underwater, and all this stuff's going on, right? What they're not telling you is that same group of people have a whole bunch of scientists that are neuroscientists and hypnotherapists and MFTs and remote viewers and all these guys. And guess where they're at? Guess where they're hanging out on weekends?
Yeah, with the contactees, right?
They're out with the contactees. They're out with the major contactees. They put them through EEGs. They put them through a Rorschach test. They've done profiles on them. They've gotten their blood samples. They've measured their brain. They put them through an MRI. They want to know how much white matter's in their head. They want to know everything. You know why? Because they know. They know in deep down, where they're not showing you on TV or looking at the UAPs, they know that that's the real deal here.
Yeah.
Is that the person who's having contact is the person they need to be talking to. Because you know what? We are the magnets for the aliens. And how else are they going to study them unless they go hang out with a magnet?
Yeah, that's so crazy how the one piece of the puzzle that kind of makes this entire thing tick is the one piece of the puzzle that also has people discredit you, and that's the contactees. Yep. That's it. It doesn't make any sense. It's just mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the old, look this way while I'm doing this behind your back. It's the wag the dog scenario. It's the whole thing the government's been doing all along. And trust me, guys, you know about Melinda Leslie. She's an amazing researcher into who's behind the curtain. Her and I have been studying what we call the Wizard of Oz effect around this for at least 30 years now. And the problem we've got is very simple, what I just said. We've got all these people, and it's all the same people. They're all in their 80s now that started this cover-up back in the early 80s, late 70s, and they're still behind the scenes covering everything up. Their faces may have changed a little. We may have added a new player here or there, but it's basically the same group of people. And if you want to call them Majestic 12, go right ahead. I don't have a problem with that. But it's more than that. It's what Grant Cameron calls the Cosmic 200. There's about 200 people involved, and they come and go, but it's the core 50 that have always been there, and, dying off now. So I'm starting, in 10 years, 50% of those guys are going to be gone, maybe 70%.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think, are they grooming the next generation of, discreditors?
Yes, I do. I absolutely think so. I think, somebody like Lou Elizondo is probably going to be the top dog because he's probably going to be one of the oldest guys in it.
Yeah.
And then we've got people like Diane Paluska, who is, she's an amazing theologist that realizes that alien contact is real, and alien and contactees are a very important piece to the puzzle, and she's in her 40s, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
And we've got this whole group of, a little younger 40s and 50s crowd that I think they're bringing them in slowly. And but the problem they've got is they can't brainwash them the way they did the military. See, all the guys that started this whole thing were all ex-military.
Right, yeah.
Or the military. And a lot of these people they're bringing in now are not. So I don't know how they're going to contain it the way they used to. And maybe that's not the plan. I don't know what they're up to, but my guess is that things are changing rapidly around the whole subject. And I think they're realizing at this point is they can't keep a lid on it like they did for 50, 60 years anymore, and they can't control the narrative as well as they did all that time. Because it's opening up. People are like, okay, they don't like my conference very much. I mean, they respect me for doing what I do. I know they do. You know, deep in my heart, I know these guys are going, God, how does she do this, right? But on the same breath, they're going, damn, we wish she wouldn't do this because, you know, she's getting all these people on stage that we're trying to keep quiet and away from the public, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting here, I'm waiting for, you know, like the head of the CIA to call me any day now and shut me down, but I'm joking. You know, but in a way, it's real because maybe they're letting it happen this way. Maybe they're actually behind me doing all this, and I just don't even know it. You know?
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably be at your conference.
Yeah,
somebody
undercover.
So, but I can tell you this: they'll be sending somebody to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, definitely. So I have kind of a question. It's kind of a side note, but it's definitely related. I've kind of held off a little bit because I want to give it the proper attention that it deserves. But I'm about to dive into Jacques Vallee like really hard. And I heard that he kind of like one of his most recent books really kind of names some people and has some really important information in it.
He does, and it's fabulous. And I haven't even, it's sitting on my shelf, and I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to read it. But I have got the index, and I went through the index, and I was like, oh my God. It was for about 6 people on the planet. I don't think Jock even realizes this. There's about 6 of us that salivated over this thing like it was a Penthouse magazine, and we were 13-year-old boys. It was hysterical because it was like the day it came out, I think Melinda got a hold of it, and I think Grant Cameron got a hold of it. I got a hold of it. I think that, God, I'm looking at his face, but I can't say his name for the life of me. Come on, it'll come to me. Anyhow, a bunch of us, there were like 7 or 8 researchers that were like, oh my God, this answers all of the holes in all of our history about these guys, right?
Oh, man.
And it was phenomenal. And like I said, I haven't had a chance to really dig into it yet. After the conference, I'm going to break out all my research, and I'm going to start filling in the holes with what he's talking about.
That's awesome.
Because he answers so much in there. And the problem is, you guys, a lot of people looked at that book and they went, oh, this is just a bunch of stuff. You know, it's a bunch of memoirs about what he did and who he is with, and who cares? But what they don't understand is, every one of those people he mentions in that book is a major player in the cover-up.
Right, right.
And he outed them all. And I'm just like going, okay. And how did, you know, now here's the kicker. You don't say, well, this book does blah, blah, blah. You say, who in the heck let him publish it? They gave him a green light to publish the dang thing. So that means, like what I was saying about just a few minutes ago, is they must be green lighting all of this exposure. Because it's time that we're filling in pieces we didn't know. They're not trying to hide it anymore. They're letting me put on an event with their, you know, top 5 guys that they've been brain scanning and doing all kinds of things to, and you know, and they're letting me talk about it. I mean, it's like if this had been 20 years ago or even 30 years ago, there would have been men in black at my door and they would have threatened my life.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. You don't really hear the Men in Black story as much anymore. You know.
No, you don't hear about this stuff. What's really going on, and I think they're shifting their whole attitude. This is just my opinion, folks. I don't know. But I think they're shifting their whole attitude to, let's not cover up anymore. Let's figure out how to encompass the general public into this slowly with just look at the UAPs up in the sky, folks, and that takes care of about 99% of the public because they're all still looking up going, oh, UFOs are real, you know?
Yeah.
And that covers that, and then they've got this 1% down here of major contactees and people like myself and you guys who've seen UFOs and had contact or whatever, and we're all going, well, okay, they're letting them see the UFOs now and they know they're real and telling them they're real. So when are they going to get to us? Well, we're an afterthought later because we're way down the rabbit hole. And these people that they're talking to are the 99% of the population. They can't even look down that rabbit hole yet because they're still looking up in the sky going, is that real?
Right, yeah.
They They haven't even looked at the footprints on the ground from the landed vehicle yet.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, because I mean, now you're getting to a point to where like now people are finally like accepting the fact that UFO is an actual thing, right? But like most of us that are like already researching this or into it, like we're way past that already. We're like, I know that they're real. And now we're trying to get to like the core of the issue, and everybody else seems to be just now catching up to the fact that, oh, UFOs are an actual thing.
Yeah. That's the deal here. And that's, and I'm so grateful that I live in the time I live in now, and I'm doing what I do now because, like I said, 30 years ago, I couldn't do this. And I couldn't do anything like it because it would have just been like, oh, my God, who's this woman trying to expose this? Okay, shut her down, kind of thing. I could hear them talking about it, right?
Right.
It's so crazy. And there are some great movies out there. I was thinking about this. I don't know how your audience is. I don't know if they're really educated into it or if they're just new at this or whatever, but there are some great movies out there, folks, that you really need to watch if you want to understand the UFO community. And I would always suggest starting with I Know What I Saw by James Fox, and then his second movie, which was I Know What I Saw 2 or something like that. It's just a kind of continuation and a beefed up version of the first movie.
Yeah.
That's super important that people understand that what he did. He went out in the earlier days, I think it was in the late 90s, early 2000s, and started interviewing people from major sightings that had really never UFO before or whatever, and said to him on camera, this is what it was, this is the size, this is how it looked, I saw this, I saw that. And he'd say, well, what do you tell people when they say, oh, that can't be real? And they'd say, I know what I saw.
Right.
And so that's the kicker here. If you've seen it, you know what you saw, and your life is never the same again. And this is what people need to understand. So watching that movie, even if you've never seen a UFO, folks, watch the movie, because these are just ordinary people telling you what they saw. The next movie you have to watch, and it will blow your mind, and you probably will be never the same again if you accept it as a reality, is Extraordinary, the Stan Romanek story. That is probably, it is like the movie you have to watch, or you'll never get it. It's just that simple.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I remember that watching that for the first time, and I couldn't go to sleep that night. I was just like, they're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. That's the thing. They are everywhere. But there is one thing that we're still trying to figure out as a community, the UFO people, and especially the contactees, is the question we've been asking for 10 years is not are they there, what's going on? It's why me?
Oh, right.
Because that's a very important question, is why I got to be, why I got to see a UFO, why I had a light beam by the side of my bed, why this woman walks through my wall,
Right.
Why all these things happen to me. Now, I am not a contactee. Very different than the rest of the guys I hang out with. And that's a story unto itself, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But every person who is a contactee, what happens is in that moment that it happens, you wake up the next day and you haven't been the same since you saw the UFO, and then trust me, you're never really even close to being a human being again after seeing 3 aliens standing over your bed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. It's you're wondering what the heck I did to deserve this kind of torture, right? That's your first thought, because it's like, most people are afraid, but eventually people who are having more and more contacts, some people only have 1 or 2 contacts in their entire life. And those are usually the ones that are in denial and afraid, okay? And we're starting to break this down. The more often you see them and the less they do something to you that feels like harm, the more you get closer to them and try to understand their existence, and try not to be afraid. Because what happens to every human being I've ever talked to who has had an encounter, fear is so intense that you have to be almost a master yogi, Dalai Lama, priest, I don't know what. You have to be that person that can get beyond the fear, and it's very difficult to do that. Fear is the biggest problem humans have. And I got to tell you guys something. I have not been afraid my entire life of most things. And I'm starting to wonder, this is just a thought that came up with me and Melinda. We were in Las Vegas last week gambling. We go about 3 times a year and gamble together.
Hell yeah.
Sitting there gambling, we're like, it's so weird. I've never been afraid. And then we'll gamble a bit. She'll go, yeah, isn't that strange? I wonder where that comes from. And then we'll be sitting there doing like these Dalai Lama questions of life. Playing Baccarat, right? I mean, it's just crazy. So we're sitting there, and I finally said, I have no fear. And she goes, that's odd. Ever since my first encounter, I haven't had much fear either. And I said, well, what do you think the aliens are doing to us who are like, what I would call major contactees? I don't consider myself one. Definitely Melinda is one. And I said, what do they do to you guys? Maybe they take this fear away, and we're blessed in the fact that we can have this crazy, I want to run from them and I don't want it to ever happen in my life again, and I'm going to flip out and I'm always insane over it, to like, I just accepted it and they're part of my life.
Yeah.
Why is it that person gets that and the other person doesn't? I want to know that answer. That's more important to me than they're here, because I know they're here. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's almost like they want you to get to know them, on a certain level. But it's almost like there's so much to take in that even though you get the opportunity to try and get to know them, it's almost like impossible because you're too busy like in awe of the whole situation. It seems like.
And then there's this other factor that every contactee will tell you. They are so far beyond us in their mental capacity that when they connect with you at that level, it's like I call it touching the face of God. Because you are open to the universe at that point. You are one with everything. You're one with them. You're one with your God, whatever that may be. And there are no lies between you. That's the other thing. People don't get that. This is so important. Once you've had that telepathic communication with another being, you can't, it's hard to eat meat. You can't lie to people. Your integrity goes up like 4,000 fold, and you hate yourself for everything you've ever done in your life that's been bad. I remember spending a whole week in bed crying over all the horrible things I've done.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and the worst one for me was when I got a dog at one point, and it's a long story, but I basically kind of sideways, not on purpose, abused this dog because I locked it up on a chain in the backyard for long periods of time, and I was just stupid. And finally, my grandfather had to take care of it, and we got rid of it. And I didn't realize until I started having these major contacts what a horrible thing I'd done to that dog, and I literally was crying in torture over what I'd done to that dog.
Oh no!
And I realized something after I came out of that whole experience. I thought, is this what they talk about when you die? That you have to face all the horrible things you've done and relive them?
Judgment.
Yeah.
This is what the aliens have done for me.
Yeah.
They've turned me on to the fact, while I'm alive, of the horrible things I've done, and I have to live a life of purity now.
Wow.
Or, I'm using the word pure, but, you guys get what I'm saying. There's no hiding anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do anything, and I have to stand up for myself and tell the truth all the time now. When I'm in places and things happen, I don't just shrink back in the wall and go, well, it's not my problem. I can't do that. There's no way I can do that. I confront you, and if people are liars, thieves, whatever, I'm going to go out there and tell the world. And a lot of people hate me for it. They absolutely hate me for it, because I know who's on those stages now that's lying and who's telling the truth, and it causes real problems. Well, I have to live my reality. I can't just shrink back here and be and be like everybody else.
Right.
We're certainly glad that you do that.
Yeah, definitely. we need that voice. Also, I'm curious. So, like, did you consider yourself a intuitive empath before your encounter?
Yeah. Well, we could get into all that now. Yes. Okay. Here we go. Well, see, this is really funny, and Melinda and I laugh about this a lot because there's a group of women that go to these conferences, and we call ourselves the Rack Pack, and I think you guys have heard that story before.
Yeah.
And it's Jocelyn, it's Melinda, it's myself, it's Misha Johnston, it's Tana. We got there's 7 or 8 of us that go to these conferences that are, we've been psychic our entire lives. And we know it's not now, no, but we've known for a very long time the reason we're psychic is because we're all contactees of sorts. But for Melinda and Misha and a lot of the others, their contact came early on and they were seeing grays as children. I never saw them. I've never had a gray contact that I know of. I've had, my contacts are very different. So I'm going to tell you guys about those.
Yes, please.
And it all started for me when I was 18 months old. I ate a bunch of rat poison, and my grandmother, we were at the beach, and the beach from Portland, Oregon is about 90 miles. So we were 90 miles from the nearest hospital, and my mother said, oh, she didn't eat enough, and she's pulling it out of my mouth, and my grandmother says, oh my God, it's rat poisoning, we're going to the hospital right now. So everybody jumps in the car and they take me to the hospital, and sure enough, by the time they get me there, and this is gross, but I'm starting to bleed through my skin because that's what rat poison does. It melts your organs, and it just breaks down all the red corpuscles in your body. Anyhow, long story short, I'm not doing well, okay? Yeah. And they weren't sure I was going to make it through the night. So my dad and mom are freaking out, and they had to run home for something. They were running home to get me clothes or them clothes. I don't know what the story was. But they left my grandmother by the crib. They said, my grandmother told me once that it was about 12 midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning when they left. And they were coming right back, and they said, stay awake, because if anything goes wrong, we want you to, talk to the doctors, right? Type of thing. My grandmother sits down, and she's trying to stay awake. She's by my crib in the hospital, but she falls asleep. And she says, I woke up real quickly, and I saw the angel by your crib that I saw when I was about 13 years old and dying of I don't know if she said rheumatic fever or the flu or whatever was going on at the time. She was dying once, and this angel came in her window at the farmhouse and said, you're going to be fine, and, I'm going to take care of you, and blah, blah, blah. And she was. The next day she came out of it, and she lived, and they lost other kids in the family, Oh,
wow.
So, she said she saw the same angel over my crib, and she says, I didn't talk to it, but it talked to me, so apparently it was telepathically communicating with her, and told her I was going to be fine, and that I had things to do. This is always my story. I've always got things to do, and that I would be fine. And my grandmother, then after she saw the angel, she just fell asleep. And so my parents come back from the hospital, 45 minutes later, and she's sound asleep, and they're like, why are you sleeping? We told you not to sleep. And this was she always told me this. She goes, it's because I saw the angel, and Lorien's going to be fine, right? And she she goes, I'm going home. I'm going back to sleep. And so my parents were just furious, and they stayed with me, and my grandmother goes home, and she's like sleeping like a baby because she knows I'm going to be fine. Right?
Yeah.
So and my parents never forgave her. I always thought she was cold and callous about the whole thing, but I knew exactly what she meant. I was like, it's like, yeah, hey, we all know that story, right?
Right.
So I think that is when I had my first encounter with them, and I believe that was the moment they instilled the non-fear in me. I really do believe that now. I'm 62 years old. I believe that now. If you'd asked me 3 years ago, I may not have said that to you. But I think that's when it started for me. So from that point on, I'm now a little different than most people. I'm now very sensitive. I'm very empathic. I get sick at the drop of a hat if there's any kind of bad or evil, or people are yelling, or if there's something going on. It's ugly. I'm reacting physically to it. So my parents think I'm kind of a nutcase, and I get really sick, and they like, why are you sick? And then they take me to the doctor, and there's nothing wrong with me, but it's just that I can't take anything crazy, and so I spend a lot of my early years being very sensitive to everything around me. As I got older, that kind of subsided, and then I started seeing the future, which is not always good. Whoa. And I could start looking at people, and I could see what was going to happen to them. And I'm not saying I could see it. It's more like I can't explain it. And what it parallels, and this is even more interesting. This is why I think most psychics are probably contactees of sorts, because what it parallels is the kind of information you get from an alien, okay, or an angel, or whatever, is that same feeling I'm from another human being. It's the same kind of feeling I got from the aliens or the angels or whatever was communicating with me. It's like you're getting a picture, but a feeling and everything all at the same time in an instant, and something. Then something. It's like the future. You know what's going to happen. You could see everything that's going to happen in a fraction of a second. It's like the universe opens up and dumps all this knowledge into your head in a way that is encapsulated in emotion, all your five senses, and pictures, and verbal and sound at the same time.
Whoa. And it's like sensory overload almost.
Yeah, but that's how psychics see things. And I finally I was like, oh, this is how it works. Psychics are just picking up all this stuff at once, just like the aliens communicate and do how they do. So there is something that happens in our brain that and this is why the guys are studying us. This is why they're like, what is these guys got that we don't got, right? And here's where the studying of how we communicate with aliens, or how psychics perceive scenarios or stories or information, is because of the remote viewing crowd. I finally figured this out a few years ago too. I was like, oh, the remote viewing crowd, those are all part of the Cosmic 200. What were they doing in the 80s or 70s when they started this whole thing that got them turned on to the psychics? Well, the whole thing is psychics and remote viewers are doing a piece of what the aliens do to us in the way they communicate. So yeah, I mean, it's very, I don't want to go on and on about how it works and whatever, because of the because we're on a show and a lot of people listening are going, God, I don't know what she's even talking about.
But yeah, so I guess you get the different types of people together to kind of work this at the same time, and you're kind of getting the full picture almost of what they're able to do then.
Exactly. Yeah, and if most of the contactees could figure out how to communicate what's going on with them at the time they're actually talking to the alien, then I think they'd get a real understanding of what's going on, and I believe they are doing that. I think, whoever these guys are that are studying the contactees have now got a really good idea of how the aliens are communicating. And I'm going to throw one more thing in about this before I go back to my life story. I do know, and I don't know how I know this. I'm not sure if anybody told me or if I saw it because the aliens want me to know it. Because I do get a lot of communication from them about what's going on in the field. I figured out about 6 months ago that the guys in the Cosmic 200, what they're doing right now is they're trying to build a device so that I could sit down on a headset like I'm right now talking to you guys and talk to the aliens.
Whoa. That would be pretty nuts. That would be awesome.
That's pretty nuts.
I know. God. And just think about this. What if there's, 60 million aliens and we got 60 million people on the planet and we could all have our own angel or alien to talk to?
Isn't Grant Cameron involved in that somehow?
I don't know. I mean, maybe I picked it up from Grant. I don't know, but my gut feeling tells me that's what they're doing. And maybe I did hear it from Grant.
Or he knows a little something about that. I feel like I may have heard something about that, but I listen to so much stuff that I get confused sometimes,
Yeah, and Well, I picked up on it. Maybe I listened to Grant's show one day or heard something in passing, but I had another one of what, and I'll explain this to the audience too. I need to tell them this. I have these downloads, and that's the only way I can describe them. I've had them all my life, but even much more so since 2009 when I almost died. After 2009, they come not all the time now, but they're pretty regular, and they answer all my questions, and all I have to do is go tell me the answer, and I'll go to sleep, and my upper body will start vibrating, and I'll be half asleep and half awake, and I get this like bombardment of information.
What?
And
wow,
there's no way to describe it to people, but it's really cool, and I gotta tell you, 90% of the time when it happens, I tell them, leave me alone, I'm trying to sleep, and I roll over and go back to bed. The honest to God truth is, I don't really care, because I've got a million things going on, and it's like, don't tell me one more dang thing, because I don't have time to deal with it, you know? It's just,
Yeah.
not now.
Is there like a physical sensation to that, or does it?
it starts with my. It starts between the what do they call that? The spacula? It's your shoulder blades in the back. It starts there, and then it radiates throughout my arms and down into my torso and up into my head.
Whoa.
And I start vibrating from the inside out. That's the only way to describe it.
Wow, that's crazy. Huh.
That's strange.
It's are vibrating at such a micro vibration that it's like I'm buzzing. You know how that feeling when your body part is falling asleep and you're waking up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That, but not as intense, and it's in a whole area of my body.
Whoa.
That's
it's
nuts.
a trip.
Damn, that does sound like a trip.
So at the same time, I have to be in what they call as a delta. I have to be right between awake and asleep.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Huh. Kind of like a rim, that rim area.
Frequencies.
Right before you wake up, it's like that spot. Right, it's the one level before. It's like right falling asleep or right waking up. I don't know what they call it. It's not REM sleep, because in REM you're totally out.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just where you open your eyes and you're just barely aware you're in your bed. That place.
Yeah, I think we've talked about kind of experiencing this sensation as you're going to sleep. Sometimes I think we talked about it, like you hear loud noises or music or something.
Stuff. Yeah,
and it sounds like it's right in your ear. Have you ever experienced that, Lorien? Or is it kind of like that? Like,
I think I told you on the last show, I was laying in bed one night many years ago, just falling asleep, and I swear to God, I heard someone yell in my ear, right next to my ear, "Hello, can you hear me?"
Yeah, definitely.
I was like, oh my God, and I jumped up, and I'm looking around the room because I thought a ghost was in the room, and he was trying to communicate with me. That's what I really thought. And I called my sister, who's a doctor, and I said to her, "Hey, have you ever heard voices when you're falling asleep?" She goes, "Oh, that's just audio noise or this or that or, whatever." She came up with some excuse for it, but I know there was a ghost yelling in my ear. I know it.
That's crazy.
I would never yell, she goes, "It's stuff in your head, what have you." And I go, I would never yell that in a male's voice into my ear.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, because we've talked about that too, and it's crazy because it sounds like it's right there. Yeah. It sounds extremely real, and neither one of us know what that is. I mean, we tried to Google it, but I mean, there's just, I don't know, whatever answers we come up with on Google, it just doesn't seem to satisfy what it is that you heard.
Right.
Yep, they call it some kind of audio. God, there was a word for it she used, but yeah, it's audio repetitive or something like that, where you hear things that you've like watched on TV or something like that because you're just falling asleep and you're actually starting to dream while you're still a little conscious. That's how she described it. And so she said it's probably the beginning of your dream. I said, nah, this was no beginning of no dream. This was somebody trying to get my attention.
Wow.
So there you go. Maybe sometimes it is that. I totally get that. You know,
totally.
That people can, start to fall asleep and still be a little conscious before they actually go under. And I get that, but but not for me, not that time, and probably not for you guys either. Because there's another thing you guys know that I've told you before. You wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now if you weren't in some way involved.
Yeah. I think about that often.
I definitely think about that too.
Yeah.
I always go, sorry, too bad. Now you're part of the crew.
I was like thinking about this the other day. I wonder if I would be too afraid to get like regressed. Like I don't know if I want to do that, because if I found out that I've been abducted, like it would be really weird.
Yeah, something
like, you
happened
can't go
to
back.
you where you're like, okay, so I just don't remember it, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of what happened to you, right, Lorien? I mean, you don't want to go through that because you don't want to know.
I'm one of the few people out there, and they still look at me like we were in Vegas, and we were with Misha, and she's a hypnotherapist, and we're sitting on the couch, and Melinda said something, but I've got to go get regressed, and Misha looked at me and goes, "When are you getting yours done?" I'm like, "Never." You know that. Laughing. But I did say to her, I said, "Misha, if I ever decide to do it, you're going to be the one to do it."
There you go.
All right.
What do you do? I don't want to know. And there's a reason why I don't. Because I've never had the gray contact. I have had a reptilian contact, but it was invisible. I do know that happened because I was there for it.
Ooh,
so
I want to know about that.
And I was awake, so I know it was real.
Oh, damn.
And
tell us about that experience.
Well, I've had so many experiences where I was awake. See, this is the other problem, and I'm just going to go down this road for 1 second. Most of your people that you talk to that have had hypnotherapy is because they can't remember, okay? I can remember all of my experiences, but they're not with ETs. They're mostly with ghost or phenomenon or whatever, and it had nothing to do with ETs. And I've seen not a lot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 UFOs, and some of them up close. They're really low.
Wow.
So I know what I saw. I was awake for all of this stuff. And people say all the time, if you saw them that close and they were there, you must have had alien contact too. And I'm like, well, probably, but I don't care if I have, because what difference does it make? It's not going to change anything for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a believer. I don't need to be convinced, and I don't need therapy around it because I've accepted it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what difference does it make? But for the people who have had really strange and not so good things happen to them as they perceive it, and whatever, like if they've been beaten up by a reptilian, God, bless them, they need to get regressed because they've got to face that fear, or whatever happened to them.
Right.
And those stories are so rare, though. I mean, if you look at the gray aliens that have been, doing these, what we call hybrid programs, those guys, they're just doing their job. They're not there to hurt you, but they don't really care if you're in pain or if you're upset or if you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. That's what
makes
it scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so back to the whole hypnotherapy thing, I wouldn't do it unless you have something that's happened that's traumatized you and you could feel it in your psyche. Because if you've been traumatized, you know it. Ask any vet who's been through war. They'll tell you right now, there are things that you just don't want to remember that you did that were ugly, and you got to deal with it. You just got to deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I don't feel like I've been traumatized, but I've seen so many weird things in the sky. It's like, man, I wonder if there's more to it. I don't know.
Yeah, my guess is you probably have had some type of contact then.
Most
thanks. People who have seen them have really had some kind of contact. I mean, the big joke in the community is if you've seen one, you're either being picked up or dropped off.
Oh, that's cool.
Dude. So that means they like us, dude.
Yeah, dude, they like us.
See, there you go. Well, okay, what was the question? It was about being psychic or something along those. Oh, the reptilian contact.
Yeah. Tell me what. Yeah.
I'll tell you guys that story. I was leaving Las Vegas back in 2014 from my Super Soldier and Mind Control conference that I was putting on at the Gold Coast Hotel. And I was driving back on the 10 towards is it, God, what town is it? I don't remember. Barstow. I think it's Barstow. And I was just past Pern. I don't know if people know where that is. It's about 11 miles outside of Las Vegas, heading towards LA. And I'm sitting in the car and I'm thinking about the conference and just a bunch of things. And the next thing I know, I feel pressure around my stomach from back behind the car seat. Like someone's reaching through the car seat and hugging me around my waist.
Whoa.
I feel like it wasn't defined as arms, but it felt like, I'm being squeezed. And I'm like, what the heck? And the next thing I know, I feel, oh God, this is so weird. I feel like Cold Snake the Frog, and they're putting their cheek up against my cheek.
Whoa.
And we're both facing the front, okay? And I feel this cheek on my cheek, and it feels like snakeskin. Okay.
Whoa.
And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm trying to stay driving on the road. Okay, I'm going 75 or 80 miles an hour in the fast lane, and this is starting to happen. And I'm like, oh my God! And I'm starting to get over to the slow lane because I don't know what's happening to me. Okay.
Wow.
So I get in the slow lane, and I'm now down to about 55 miles an hour, and I hear a voice in my head, right in that ear, right where the cheek is up against my cheek, and he goes, "I love you." And I'm like,
no.
Seriously. And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, what? He loves me. He's going to eat me. That's all I can think.
Oh my God.
That was so creepy.
Yeah, and then I hear, you know what? I'm not going to tell you guys what I hear the rest of it, but I can tell you this. It was good. It was all good stuff and very interesting stuff. And it lasted about, 3 or 4 sentences worth. And then he was gone. And it was, and I know it was a he, and I know he was there, but I couldn't see him. Okay.
Whoa.
Fast forward to about 6 months later, I'm at another conference, and Barbara Lamb is being interviewed by me. And Barbara starts to tell her, I know her story about the reptilian that appeared in her living room. And, she's telling that whole story. And then at the end of it, she goes, oh, yeah, and sometimes they'll appear while you're driving your car in the back seat. And I'm like, ah! And I said, I wrote down on a piece of paper while she's talking. I said, stay afterwards and talk to me. So she did, and I told her my whole story, and she laughed. She goes, yeah, they probably didn't appear to you because they knew you'd crash the car and kill yourself.
Damn. Yeah. Well, what crazy timing to do that while you're on the highway, too. Like, they should have waited while you're in, like, a drive-through window or something.
I was like, why in the hell, Barbara, are they going to appear in the back seat of your car and you look at them in the rearview mirror? Everybody would die if that happened.
Oh, my God. I remember I was driving down the highway one time, and I used to live out in the country, and occasionally, those big, wolf spiders will get in your car, and I'm driving, and I'm looking in the rearview mirror, and I see a spider, and it's right above my shoulder, because I had these big bench seats in my Impala, and it's right over the shoulder, and I damn near killed everybody on the highway. I immediately pulled over, freaked out, slammed on my brakes. It wasn't a pretty situation, so I can't imagine seeing a reptilian sitting in my back seat.
Yeah, dude.
He better hope he's wearing his seatbelt, that's for sure.
Seriously.
Because we're all dying.
Oh my God. I'm telling you guys, I laughed so hard with Barbara that day. I was like, so this really happened to me. She goes, yeah. She goes, he just wasn't visible to you because he knew you'd probably kill yourself.
Damn. Yeah, that makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was a very interesting encounter. What he told me was very powerful. I don't want to talk about it on air because it's very personal.
Sure.
Right.
But yeah, it was trippy, and I was so flipped out, you guys. There's a rest stop about 15 miles further on, and I pulled into the rest stop, and I sat there for an hour and a half shaking, literally.
Yeah.
I was just so
Understandable.
I wasn't flipped out emotionally, but it was the first time an invisible being had come up to me and talked to me, and while I was doing something like driving. I mean, I have no problem with invisible beings by my bed whispering to me. I don't care about any of that, but don't do it while I'm driving, man.
Yeah, you hear that? out there.
Don't show up while we're driving. Don't show up in the corner of my room either at night.
Yeah. Don't watch me while I sleep.
There's all these stories about people driving their cars, and their car and them are picked up and taken to wherever the ship is, or in the ship, or what have you, and then the whole car and they are put back down on the road driving, and they wake up and they're driving their car and they're like 90 miles away from where they originally were.
Oh my gosh.
And they don't remember any of it in between. I mean, it's nuts. I mean, and this is why, and I gotta say, this is why these guys have been keeping this a secret all these years, because stuff like that happens.
Right. And you can't do anything about it, really.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. They don't know why, or I mean, how they're doing it. They don't know really why, but I think the contactees are starting to clue them in. Enough of us have been experiencing this long enough to start asking the tough questions. You know, like I'm always asking the tough questions. Like, here's one for you guys. Are there any blind contactees? That's something I've always wanted to know.
Oh, that's a great question.
I believe, here's my thought on this, and I know they picked up on this because I started talking about this years ago on my radio show. I know these guys have picked up on it, is that I think that the eyeball of the gray alien has to be in contact with your eyeball, because they send a frequency through your optical nerve, which triggers everything for their communication with you and their control over you.
Whoa,
I love that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Dang.
Damn.
Yeah, that's my theory. And when those guys come out with it, you can always tell them, we knew that Lorien came up with that first.
Yeah. I mean, even on the flip side, maybe they're contacted way more than anybody, right? Because they can't see it and they know that they won't get scared. So they may be talking to these things all the time and never even know it.
Right.
I don't know. That too.
Yeah, sitting at the bus stop and having a conversation with a gray, but really nobody's there.
They would never know the difference.
Wouldn't know the difference. That's nuts. God, but I love the eye-to-eye contact thing. That's incredible. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely real. Because you talk to any contactee, you know what they all say to you? It stood by the side of my bed and got real close to my face and looked at me. And then I went paralyzed, or I did this, or I whatever. I've never heard one say, well, they turned their head and they were looking the other direction and I totally got paralyzed. I've never heard one say that, ever. So, and like I said, I've been doing this a long, long, long time. I'm like ancient now. And I got interested in the subject when I was between 16 and 18 with the UFOs. And I started the JFK stuff when I was like 13 to 16. So, and I was a psychic and a medium and a tarot card reader during all that time too.
Very cool.
So, this is all like just all connected. And that's the other part I wanted to tell you guys. I've had some amazing downloads, but most of the downloads they give me are like visions of stuff that's going to happen or hasn't happened or is going to, or I don't know what. But what they're really doing to me is they're fine tweaking my understanding of spirituality in the long run. I look at it that way now. At first I was like, what are they doing? They're sending me visions of spider webs with really defined words written all over them. And then at the end of the vision, they'll say it's all connected. And I'm like, oh, gee, that was great. You woke me up for that. I could have told you that.
Oh, damn.
It's like, yeah, but it's like they're DNA sequencing my brain to understand God. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like so bizarre. And they'll give you these amazing messages about the universe and God and reality and, everything. And I get them in visions, and whereas a lot of the contactees I know will be on the ships talking to them, and they'll zap them a vision like that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, it's pretty crazy, and I gotta admit, it's a little disconcerting sometimes because I got a vision one day where they were showing me slapping, they called it slapping on Joan of Arc's armor, and I was like, what in the hell are you guys doing? And they're putting me on a horse, they're putting all this armor on me, and the armor starts glowing, and my hands are up in the air like I'm reaching to God, and then they're like, you've got tribulations in front of you. It kind of thought goes in my head, and then they're like, don your Joan of Arc armor and all will be well kind of thing. And I'm thinking, I'm not Christian. Why am I?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I'm like, why Joan of Arc of all things, But
why couldn't it have been Bootsy Collins? If it was me, they would have me slapping a bass and I'd be Bootsy Collins.
There you go. See, that's what I was thinking. I was like, come on, why Joan of Arc? But I got this amazing answer back, and it was that Joan understood her place with God. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. It's just like these really profound, crazy visions, and I'm like, okay. And I never know what it's going to be about. One day it's a spider's web, the next day it's time travel, then it's Joan of Arc, and I'm like, come on, you guys, can't you be consistent and make it like a TV series or something, where I have a conclusion at the end? Or
seriously. No, it's just an ongoing puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. But, and I'm not saying that this is a normal contactee thing. I'm just saying this is my thing, I've had so many bizarre things happen. I guess we could talk about that now, for a little bit.
Hey, so did you want to...
So when I was 18... Yeah, go ahead.
Did you want to take a small break really quick?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool.
We're all good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You guys are good, I'm good.
I'm good,
okay. Yeah, so I told you guys about the 18-month-old almost dying thing.
Right.
And then the next thing that was really kind of different was, let's see, probably the time I told my sisters I was going to marry the Wolfman.
Right, you told us that one. Yes.
Did I tell you that story? Okay, good. Then we don't need to do that again.
Uh-huh. And you ended up marrying a guy who had the same name as the Wolfman. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That was crazy. And then, did I tell you guys about seeing my dead boyfriend?
Yes, you told us about that one. Okay. He was a painter?
Yes, he was. He was an artist. It was amazing. Yeah, that story is interesting. I have to listen to my first interview with you guys for that. And then did I tell you guys about the troll doll and the car accident? I think I told you that one.
I don't think I heard that one. No, that's a new one.
Oh, that's a new one. Okay, God, there's so many. What about the woman that came through the wall?
No, I don't think we've heard that one either. I gotta hear that one too.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm about 15 or 16 years old, and we all skipped school, and there were a bunch of us in my boyfriend's station wagon, an old Plymouth station wagon, and we decided it was my girlfriend and two guys, and then in the back seat, and then me and my boyfriend and another friend of ours named Jim in the front seat. So there's two men on each side of the doors and the two women in the middle, okay? Just so you guys get an idea of the setup.
Yeah.
And we're up in we drove up to Washington State from Portland, Oregon. You just cross over the river, you go up into Washington. We went to Vancouver. There's a park about 80 miles up the river where there's these big waterfalls. And we had cut school. We were up there. And we were, doing things that we did back then that included marijuana and beer and, whatever. And we're just having a great time. And we get back in the car about 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 5. It was just getting to be where the sun was starting to go down. It was during the school year, so it was kind of spring, I think. And we get in the car, and my buddy Jim still has a joint in his hand, and it's down to the last little bit, and he takes a big puff on it, and he blows it on the troll doll that I had put on the car on the rear view mirror to be our protector of the car. Protector, right?
Yeah.
He was, wherever we drove anywhere, I touched the troll doll, and he'd keep us all safe, right?
Okay.
So he blew smoke on it, and I said, "You got my troll doll stoned." I said, "Accident. You got to. Everybody put on your seatbelt." And it was because I saw a vision. The minute he blew the smoke on the doll, I saw this vision of us getting in a horrible accident.
Dang.
I didn't tell everybody that. I said, "You got him stoned. You got to all put on your seatbelts." Now, back when this is 1971 or something like that.
The golden age.
Yeah, the golden age, the golden age of rock. Anyhow, we're like, the seatbelts are very different than they are now. You're lucky you got one around your lap, and it was more like an airline seatbelt back then.
Right.
So I made everybody put on seatbelts, and nobody wore seatbelts back then. I didn't care. They were in the car. You didn't have to, okay? And so everybody put them on begrudgingly. They were very angry with me about it. And I knew something was going to happen. And sure enough, we're going back down the hill, and we're going down this windy road that parallels the river, okay? And there's a very deep, we're talking 250 feet drop down to the river for miles. Whoa. Okay? And there's nothing there. It's just like a sheer cliff almost, right? And my boyfriend, the stupid jerk that he was, decided that he was going to pass the car in this windy lane, and he starts to pass the car, and it's raining a little bit out. It's just kind of sprinkling. The road's getting slick, and another car starts coming, and he has to, do a maneuver to not hit the car, and he spins the car out, and we go down over the cliff.
Whoa.
And turns on its side, rolling down the cliff like 4 or 5 times, and if we hadn't had our seatbelts on, we'd all been dead by the third roll.
Okay? Oh my God!
Eject car, no, who knows what. And here's the kicker on this: about 55 or 60 feet. No, it was more 160 feet. Yeah, the CHP told us later it was 150, 160 feet. There was a big old tree that's sticking out of the side of the hill, and it was the only tree for like 250 yards one way and a quarter of a mile the other direction. It was the only one on that whole hillside, and it was the only thing big enough to hold the car, and the car rolls up against it and stops.
Wow.
And it's teetering. Were teetering, and I'm like, nobody move, and nobody moves, and we slowly figure out a way to crawl out the back window without having the car fall down into the river another 150 feet.
Oh my
Holy crap,
that's intense.
We all crawled up that hill, and we all sat on the edge and just looked at the car down there parked on the tree, and then the cop shows up, and it just got crazier from there. But I'm telling you guys, I had that vision when he blew that pot smoke on the troll, and I knew what was going to come. So,
holy crap!
So there you are, and I saved everybody's lives, But I don't
seriously
see it that way. I just see it as, that's what I was supposed to do at the time.
Right.
So
what happened to the joint?
Yeah.
God, I don't know. And all the pot in the car, and I thank God. All I got to say is thank God it must have all fallen out, because when we pulled the car up with the tow truck guy or whatever, we never got in trouble and nobody got charged.
Well, that's good. That's good.
If there was any seeds in it, maybe there's some pot growing there now.
You should go back and check.
Be our little offering to the god of the tree that saved us.
That's right. That's right. Dang, that's insane.
I know, but see, that came from a vision. If I hadn't had that vision when he blew the pot on the little troll doll, man, that would have been it.
Wow.
There'd be no Lorien and no other 5 people, man. So yeah, that was fun.
Dang, yeah.
So
that's really cool.
So these visions, do they do you? It just happens so fast, or do you have like a second of like?
Fraction of a second, I'll just see everything happening at once, and it's like all I saw in that was that we were having it was like I was rolling, but I didn't realize it while it was, I saw the vision, what it was, until after it happened. Because I didn't think it was going to happen now that we had our seatbelts on. I didn't think the accident was going to happen. I thought I'd saved us already, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it did happen, the only thing I could think about going over the edge of that cliff was like, everybody else told me later, oh, I thought I was going to die. They're all freaking out. I was thinking, this wasn't part of the vision. It's so crazy. I mean, I thought about it later. I thought, shouldn't I have been afraid? And I thought, no, because I was confused.
You're like, I knew what was happening. It just it didn't make sense for a second.
In the vision, there was I guess I was rolling in the vision. I just thought I was, just kind of spacey in the vision. I didn't really quite figure out what was going on until it happened.
Yeah.
So there you go. Anyhow, it's too funny. And then I think the thing that happened after that was significant was shortly after that happened, I my sister was, maybe I should talk about this because it's family private stuff, but bottom line was my sister was running for some kind of, I'm going to say office, through the school system and what have you. And she came to me and goes, am I going to win? And I had a vision very quickly. Here's what I used to do, you guys, and this is a trick that a lot of really good psychics use. They're having visions all the time, so instead of just standing there telling people, I'm having a vision and blah, 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 they'll use tarot cards, or they'll use numerology, or they'll find some other source to use as a grounding point for the person to focus on, instead of thinking, oh my God, they're just having a vision, is this real or not, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, what I used to do is I'd whip out my tarot cards, even to my family, and lay them out and go, this is what's going to happen. And if 50% of the time it would be through the cards, because the cards were pretty accurate by themselves, and then 50% of the time I'd get a vision with the cards, and then I know for sure I was right.
Wow.
Whoa.
Dang, that's awesome.
At that she came to me and said, am I going to blah, blah, blah? And I had an instantaneous vision, and I knew exactly what was going to happen. But I whip out the cards anyhow, and I tell her, no, you're not going to win, and this person's going to win, and this is why. And I give her the whole 9 yards. And then she's really disappointed for a couple days, and then the whole thing happens, and she loses. And she was so happy on stage when she lost that my mom and dad were concerned. They went up to her and said, are you okay? You're acting really weird. And she said, no, I'm fine. I already knew I was going to lose. Lori told me, I don't have to worry. She goes, I just enjoying being up here. I'm having fun. And they're like, oh, okay. Because, that was pretty normal in my family, is that I was kind of the spoiler,
So she knows everything.
Like telling the ending of movies and stuff.
I'm not that good. It's interesting. It kind of has to be... it has to be something of significance, or something that's going to change people's lives, or something that's going to, it could, like, if, the road not taken kind of thing.
Right.
It's like, should I do this or shouldn't I, kind of whatever, is it going to change my life completely? It always has to be that. And the sad part is, for me, usually it has nothing to do with me. I'll get stuff from everybody else on the freaking planet, but do I get the help? No.
Well, it's because you have the gift.
Yeah.
Yes, so Melinda and I were commiserating about that too. It's like, we can spend our whole life helping everybody else on the planet, but when we need something, no. Do they give it to us? No.
Oh man, that's crazy. Well, dude, that makes sense on why Lorien talked to us, because she knew we were cool before she even met us.
Yeah, that was the deal.
Right, I did. No, I took one look at you guys and I thought, this is where we're supposed to be going. I had this gut feeling about you guys. I just knew you're the future of ufology. Because the problem I've got, and you guys know this real well, is that I cannot abide by these guys out there now that think they're UFO podcasters, and then they're actually calling themselves journalists and making me lose my mind around ufology, and they don't know the history of it. They don't know anything about it. They've never talked to a contactee. They may have talked to 3 people that are scientists in the community, and now they think they're experts.
Right,
they're actually
right.
calling themselves experts. I'm
Right.
like, what happened here? It's like, I turn around and I feel like I'm living in a Fellini movie, because I've got all these people around me that don't know anything calling themselves experts. And I'm like, okay, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And I know how it happened. It's because the guys that are running the show that I was telling you guys all about earlier have controlled the narrative for so long that they have people brainwashed into thinking they actually understand what's happening.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
That's the second part.
We had Ryan Sprague on, and he had a pretty cool saying, like, if somebody claims to know what's going on, they have no fucking clue what's going on.
Right.
Absolutely the truth. And I don't know what's going on either, and I'll be the first to tell anybody, because I've been living this my whole life, and I'm still confused.
Yeah.
I think I'm coming up with some good answers here every once in a while, but then, like I said, the whole thing about, is there a blind contactee? You guys made a very good point.
Yeah.
What if they're seeing them all the time, and I just don't know it, you know? And, there's a lot of interesting things going on within the community as far as people who are actually coming up with answers, but they're being ignored because they're the contactees usually that are coming up with the answers.
Right.
That's sad. To me, that's really sad. It's the people, the part that really got me to the point where I am now, where I won't keep my mouth shut about stuff, is this. I'm at a conference. It's about 10 years ago. There's a guy on stage. He is talking about UFOs, and he gets off the stage, and I didn't know him from Adam then. And I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, how many UFOs have you seen?" He goes, "Oh, none." I go, "Well, you got to be a contactee then, right? You know about aliens, right?" And he goes, "Nope, never seen one, never heard one, know nothing about them." I go, "You wrote a book about it?" He goes, "Yeah, it's a fascinating subject." I go, "Well, that's great." And I walk away and I realize these are the people that get on our stages. They've got PhDs, they're this, they're that. They've never seen a UFO, they've never had contact, and they're the ones that are getting all the accolades.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, there's something wrong with this picture. And that's when I'd already been following the guys in the CIA and all this stuff, the military, and kind of trying to figure out what their role it was in this. I walked away from that experience with the epiphany. This is their role. This is what they've created for us. They're putting people on the stage that know nothing about this, and they're the experts now. So This is what we get. And we allowed it to happen to us. That was the other part I came away with it from there too, was we allowed this to happen.
Right. I think it's interesting. I mean, like you take like Richard Dolan for example. I mean, he's a great researcher and can put things together in a book, but I don't think he's claimed to have had any experiences. But I'm glad to have him up there talking and reading his books and stuff. Like it's really interesting stuff because he's like more of a historian, and you still need those kinds of people. But I definitely get what you mean. Like
they're your safe choice.
Yeah,
that's what I call Richard. He's a safe choice,
right?
For any doesn't know anything about the community.
Yeah,
and we still got to have him up there. But I think the tide is changing, and I'll tell you why. Because people like Richard, now that the genie's out of the bottle with the CIA guys and the military guys, and they're saying they're real. Okay, now that the genie's out of the bottle, the people are going to start asking harder questions than are they real? And what would happen if they showed up? Because that's what Richard's famous for. He said, are they real? And what would we do if they showed up?
Right.
And that's not nearly as relevant anymore. So what's really going to become relevant in 5 to 10 years is how are we communicating with them and who's communicating with them? So people like that are going to become obsolete. Sorry, Richard, but that's really the case here. Because they served their purpose, they did their time. He had 20 years on stage. That's great, and But now we're going to be moving on to what are they doing here and why are they talking to me? That's really important. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I that's why I'm so excited about UFOCon because like we've been saying this whole podcast, but like hearing it from the mouths of the people that are experiencing this stuff and finding those commonalities between some of the stories has been really, really fun. Just like listening to people's.
And that's exactly what I'm hoping for at the conference. It's not just that people come and they go, oh, yeah, that person was a great presenter or this or that or whatever, or they have an interesting story or, this. What I'm hoping they'll do is start putting the dots together and drawing the lines and saying, Chris Bledsoe had this happen. Oh, that's interesting. So did Eric Mitchell. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, Terry Lovelace had something else happen that was relevant to their case. Oh, now that's interesting. Or, they'll start putting things together. They realize that it's all connected. And especially the contactees. They're all connected in a very, spiritually cosmic reality that really means something. And that we are going to be changing the world in the future. It's really the contactees that are doing it.
Yeah. So. We had an interesting thing kind of happen to us talking about UFOCon coming up. We had done an episode on something that we hadn't really heard too much about, but we kind of dove into it, was the mantid beings, right? And we did this episode, and then not even a day later, you write up on UFOCon about how a lot of these experiencers have contact with the mantid beings, and then
I know,
and then out of nowhere, I'm at work the next day, and I'm driving on a Bobcat, and this mantis comes and flies in and just kind of hangs out like on the side grate of the machine that I'm working, and I'm like, this is way too weird because I never see like a praying mantis anywhere, and it was just so weird how back to back, like the mantis just showed up, like it was in our face for a while.
Yeah,
that is so cool. I love those mantis beings. Now, was he the big guy? Was he like 2 or 3 inches long?
Yeah. I mean, he was pretty sizable, enough for me to like take notice and be like, "Whoa, oh, please don't fly on my face." But then like I was like, "That's so strange," because we just did this episode, and like then you wrote this article, and then I started looking into Robert Fullington, and there's just all this mantis stuff going on, and it was crazy how it just like all at once like became a thing.
I know.
It was pretty strange.
It is strange, and I think it's going to be a theme for us definitely at the conference, because I didn't realize when I booked all these people, I knew they'd all had contact, and I knew the Greys were involved with most of them. I didn't know that 3 or 4 of them were having major mantis being contact. I didn't know that when I booked them all.
Yeah.
And then they'd call me, they'd go, "Oh yeah, should I talk about the mantis beings?" I go, "Well, are they a major part of your involvement with them?" They go, "Oh yeah, they're the major involvement." I'm like, "Really?" And one of the girls that's never spoken before about any of her stuff, and I don't know how well I got to say, I don't know how well her presentation's going to be. She's not a professional speaker, but she's a very good speaker. She can't build PowerPoint, and I'm kind of worried about that, but I think it's going to be okay because her stories are phenomenal. I think people will just sit there and listen. I think they'll be happy with that. But she's had mantis being contact her entire life. She has, the minute she said to me, "Lorien, I will do your event," she said 3 more mantis appear around her now that she'd never seen before. And what was really strange is after she said she would speak at my event, all of her mantis beings that surround her constantly have started morphing in colors.
Ooh.
And I'm going, I asked her, "What in the heck does that mean?" She goes, "I don't have the foggiest idea, but they're telling me I'm supposed to speak at your conference, and they're really excited about it. And every time they get all excited about me talking at your conference, they start changing colors in front of me."
That's so interesting.
Yeah, that's
And
really cool.
I said, "Do you think that them being like, she says it's like that old psychedelic oil spots that they used to have back at the Fillmore?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." She goes, "Yeah, it looks just like that." I'm like, "It's so cool you bring that up, because that sounds like what David Adair described when he touched the power plant at Area 51 from the spaceship. And it felt like the belly of a frog, but it would start changing colors according to his emotions." And I said, "Do you think that they're happy, and that's one of the reasons they're changing colors?" She goes, "Oh my God, that makes total sense, because they're all happy I'm doing this."
That's
I
cool.
know. I was like, "Oh my God." So this is how mantis may show show emotion to us, is through color.
Right.
And I thought, God, all the things I have to figure out today, that was just the weirdest.
Wow.
So, who knows? Maybe we're both crazy. Maybe there are no mantis. Maybe the coloration doesn't mean anything. But she said she'd never seen them do that before, and they sent her 2 or 3 more beings to be with her to prepare for the conference.
Wow.
They seem to have like this sense of humor about them. Like all the stuff that like all the people I've listened to talk about it, and just with the color, I mean, that's new, and that's really interesting, and how they would change color, just everything from like they don't want to scare you, so they like will sometimes put on wigs and like hats and stuff
I've heard this. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, like rubber lips, and they look at you, which me and Ben were like, that would almost scare the shit out of me even more. But I mean, I see why that's hilarious. Like, I don't know, and it seems like they really take your emotions into into account when they contact with you.
Well, that's the mantids, though. They seem to do that, and I think you guys are absolutely onto something, whereas the Greys, in my opinion, are probably cloned, entities that working on somebody's behalf, whether it's theirs or not, I don't know, and they just seem more, robotic, and they're non-emotional. And they're just not quite the same. Now, I don't mean that for all Greys, because I'll tell you guys something. I know there's a hierarchy within the Grey community, too. And you guys probably know that as well. And some of the taller Greys that are 4 or 5 feet tall seem to be very human-like and seem to have emotions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of interesting things going on with the Greys on many levels, and there's many species of the Greys too that I've been able to figure out along with all my friends. It's like, I saw one with round eyes, I saw one with almond eyes, I saw one with big, round almond eyes. I'm like, okay, I got skin colors I got from pasty white all the way to almost black. So there you go. So how do you say those are all one species? I don't think we can.
Yeah,
I don't think so either.
And they all act so different. One of them is very loving and caring. The next one doesn't even care if you're in the room.
Right. Tell me.
Yeah.
So I heard something. Tell me if you've ever heard anything like this. I'm sure you have. But so I heard a theory on this lady. She was talking about the Zetas and why they contact us, and how they are kind of a more cold, more calculated, very scientifically advanced, and this and that. At some point along the evolution of their species, they became so advanced that they almost became mechanical. And with us humans, we have that spiritual connection. You were talking about, they kind of show you this spiritual guidance, right? And your consciousness is kind of ascending in a way. Well, they've gotten so technically advanced that they can no longer evolve to that state. So the reason that they're taking DNA and harvesting and doing the hybrid program could possibly be because they're trying to maybe de-evolve themselves a little bit back more into a human state, to where they can consciously evolve to that next step that they're not able to attain at this point because they went too far technologically.
I wouldn't doubt that at all. And the reason I believe that might be the case, who was the woman that you talked to about that?
It's so there's this lady I watch. Her name is Gigi Young. And she, and she claims to be an empath and stuff like that as well. But I watch her channel, and I really enjoy what she says. And I kind of try and cross-check it here and there whenever I can. But some of this stuff, I mean, it's hard to cross-check because nobody else is talking about it. So
right.
But
see, that is the problem, and we all have different theories. But I will say that Gigi's onto something, because whether they're us from the future, or they are a separate species from another part of the galaxy or whatever, I do believe that they have gone too far. I think they may have destroyed themselves 2 or 3 times over, and I do think that they have said to my friends over many years of asking my friends this, do they believe in a God? And the truth is they do. It's the same God we have, but they said it's so much more than that.
Wow. Right.
It is the consciousness of the universe. They understand it because they can tap into it. We can't, because our problem of tapping into it, every time I've tapped into it, I'm not in my body anymore.
Right.
My body's here, but I don't feel it. I'm not part of it. It's like I'm gone off into that other expanded consciousness of God, and I'm not here anymore. I'm not human anymore for that fraction of a second. My body's still functioning, but I'm not here.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I was taken. I've never really talked about this on air before, but when I was about 14 years old, I did some great drugs. I don't remember what it was.
Nice. Hell yeah.
I was concert, or maybe I was 15. I don't know, something like that. I was a young freshman because my birthday is the end of August, and the cutoff date to get into school for that year is like September 3rd. So I'm probably one of the youngest people in any class that I was ever in. Okay. Right. So I'm like 15 when everybody else is 16 and 17 in my class.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was always doing things before everybody else. So anyhow, that's why I was doing drugs at such a young age, folks. I just don't want you to think that I was out
no judgment.
15 looking for drugs. I was hanging out with 16 and 17-year-olds because they were all in my class with me, and I'm doing what they're doing, okay?
Yeah.
So there you go. But yeah, we done something. I think we did peyote that night. I don't remember, but we had fun.
Nice.
That'll do it.
Damn.
Yep, that'll do it.
Sounds
but
like a lot
I came
of fun.
home and I was coming off of the high, and I was fine, and I'm sitting there, and I went into our family room at my parents' house, and I'm putting together a puzzle. And everybody, in the old days, we used to put a puzzle out on the table, and when you had nothing to do, you go downstairs and put pieces of the puzzle together. Okay?
Yeah.
That's how families used to communicate that way. Don't ask me why.
We still do that at my mom's house.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fun. It's like sometimes there'll be 2 or 3 of you sitting there yakking about something, doing it, and then other times it'd be you alone or, whatever. And then everybody eventually finish the puzzle and move on to the next one, right? Yeah. So I'm sitting there putting pieces of the puzzle together, and I have this, like, something hits me in the forehead. Like, I felt like I physically got hit. And the next thing I know, I'm out in the universe, and I am part of a giant cloud of consciousness, and I'm floating around in space, and I'm connecting telepathy. I have no body, okay? I'm just a consciousness, and I'm consciously communicating with all the other people in this, like, misty cloud. Wow. And we're all just debodied consciousness talking to each other. And it was really loving and peaceful, and we're all just like, oh, we'll get where we got to go, and we got to get there. And it's just, it was so different than having a body. That was what I got from it. Like, oh my God, you don't have to have a body to be conscious. When I came back, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Damn. And I attribute this to happening because when I was 13 years old, I asked for my birthday present, and I wanted the book Be Here Now by Baba Ram Dass, Richard Alpert.
Yeah.
And I've been staring into those mandalas like they were, the God's gift to humanity for 2 years at that point.
Yeah.
In the book, and looking at all his drawings and reading everything he had to say. And I thought, oh my God, God gave me a mandala experience, like the Tibetan monks,
Definitely.
But that's what it was like. And then from that point on, like I'm 15 years old, you guys, and at that point on in the rest of my life, I know what it's like to be not embodied conscious person or being or whatever. And I just so cool that gift that God gave me, or somebody did, but they slapped me in the forehead, and next thing I know, I'm out of my body and I'm out in space.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that sounds so awesome.
I know. So it was really kind of fun. And there were no aliens involved, no spaceship. I'm just floating around in space, man.
Right, yeah.
So I've had a lot of really weird things happen, and they're not weird to me now, because now I understand. I understand that have I told you guys about the time the angel was by the bed?
I don't think so. No, not as an adult or a younger person, or
an adult. I was like 30, 31, something about that age. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
And this will kind of sum it up, because I know we're getting to the end of the show here in a little bit. But I'm falling asleep. I'm married at the time. I'm about, I'd say 30, 31, because I got married when I was 29 for the first time. So it must have been a year or two into the relationship. So I'm 30, 31, laying in bed, falling asleep. And as I'm starting to fall asleep, I just closed my eyes, and I felt something happened on my left side. I'm on the left side of the bed, and there's, a standing room on the left side of me. And I suddenly, my eyes are closed, but the room is lit up, like lit up. My eye, it's like sunlight outside, right, through my eyelids.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh my God, and I'm just falling asleep. So I'm realizing that there's a burst of light in the room, and the next thing I know, I feel someone's finger running down the top of my forehead to the bridge of my nose, and I am gone. I am out of that room. I am in a place of love and light, and there's people there, and there's God is there, and the aliens are there. I mean, angels are there. It was like, oh my God, I'm dead. I can think, and I'm dead. That's all I can think. And I'm so happy, and it's so beautiful. And they told me all kinds of things. I don't remember any of it now. And I'm just like, oh, this is so great. I'm dead. I'm so happy, And the next thing I know, as I hear these words in my head again for like the 50th time in my life, you've got work to do. And then I'm slammed back into my body. Okay. And I wake up. And the only thing I can equate that to is I think there was an angel standing by the side of the bed. And when I say angel, folks, I mean a ninth dimensional alien, because that's what angels are. People don't get that. And this is going to be my first book. Finally decided which book to write first.
Nice.
It's called Angels or Aliens 2.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that's reality. An angel is just like, it's a very high dimensional vibrating alien, and you just don't see it like you see a gray or a reptilian or what have you. It is just a giant ball of light and sometimes they'll have arms and legs, kind of coming out of them. But anyhow, and there's been a lot of people that have seen them. I mean, Barbara Lamb's got a great story about seeing them dance in a circle in Wiltshire, England.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, they came down on a beam of light. They separated into 3 balls of light. Then they got forms of feet and arms kind of in a head. And they danced around in a circle, created a crop circle, and then zoomed off and left.
Whoa, cool.
That's super cool.
I know. I was like, oh my God. Anyhow, and she wasn't the only one that saw it. There were witnesses to that one. So that one's really an amazing story. Yeah. Anyhow, so I'm dead. I think everything's great. And I don't want to be. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm dead. Oh yeah, I'm so excited, And the next thing I know, I'm back in my body, and I'm in pain. This is the first time I've ever had pain associated with getting back in my body.
Oh no!
And I think I really died. I really do. I think I may have only died for maybe 30 seconds or 10 seconds. Who knows? But getting back into my body this time, it hurt. It was like everything hurt for about 5 minutes. Like it was like every nerve was on fire. I can't even describe it to people. I never felt anything like it since. And I was pretty upset that I was back in my body, and I was mad as hell. And then after the pain went away, after about 5-10 minutes, I felt heavy. So heavy that I could barely lift my leg. And I've had other people tell me now they've experienced that too when they've gotten back into their body after an out-of-body experience, where you feel so heavy because you've just now been light as a feather. So, this is like you're back into this heavy thing, you know.
Wow.
And time, as you guys know, I'm a big girl now, but at the time I was a 110-pound professional dancer. So, the problem was at 110 pounds, I felt like I was 500 pounds.
Wow.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah, it took me about a day to get to the point where I could dance again because I felt so heavy. But while this is all happening, here's the interesting part. My husband, who never comes home before 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, ever, because he works like 69 hours a week.
Yeah,
damn. And he'd go to work in the morning and come home at like 2 in the morning, okay, or midnight usually. And this is like 8 or 9 o'clock. I went to bed early that night. I think I was in bed at 9:30 because I was really tired and I didn't feel good. And that I do remember because I thought, it was weird. Maybe I did die because maybe something happened. Maybe I had a stroke. Maybe I had a heart attack. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe something weird happened to me and I just don't know it, right?
Wow.
And so I went to bed early, and he said he had a weird thing happen. He was sitting at the bench. He was soldering a circuit board, and he heard a voice in his head said, "You've got to go home now."
Wow.
He was like, he goes, "I've never heard anything like that before or since, but now I find out many years later, you guys, he was a major contactee."
Whoa.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, but this was long after. sister and I kept being friends, and slowly over the years I found out they had missing time as kids together with their parents.
Damn.
She had a baby that went missing. I mean, yeah, just trust me. This whole family's nothing but contactees, right? So he's getting this voice in his head, and he's in total denial about all of it, right? But he gets this voice in his head, and it says, go home right now. Go home right now. So he does. He tells his boss, I don't feel good. I got to get home. And the boss, okay, fine. He leaves. He comes home to find me sitting there on the edge of the bed, trying to down JB. I hate JB, by the way. It's a whiskey. I don't know what it is. It's horrible stuff. I'm trying to down that sleeping pills with JB so I can die and go back to that place of love and light.
Oh my gosh.
And this was the only time in our whole marriage the guy ever came home early, is to find me sitting there trying to kill myself.
Wow.
So I could go back.
Damn.
Yeah.
Not just coincidence.
I mean, that's such a profound experience. Like, I can definitely sympathize. Like, wow, if you go from basically heaven to back to reality, it's...
Oh, you guys, I can't tell you. You know, I sit here to this day going, that is the only thing that has kept me going, is knowing that when I die, I get to go there. I know that.
Yeah.
I absolutely know. I've been there. So, and that probably is the other reason I have no fear. You know, I do have fear. I got to say it. And when I say I have no fear of death, you know, and and one of the most amazing things that's ever happened to me. How much time do we have left?
However much you want. You just keep going.
The most amazing things that ever happened to me was after I did the Super Soldier and Mind Control conferences in 12, 13, and 14, I was having a lot of problems with people in the community. There were, you got to remember, people in that part of the community aren't quite that stable. And I didn't realize it at the time what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I was bringing to the surface for people to examine is these people who think they have been used in the secret space program as super soldiers in other dimensions. You know, and I'm not tooting my horn here, folks. I'm just telling you, if I hadn't put on all those conferences, you would never have heard about any of these people. You know, Duncan O'Finian was out on the scene, and he was one of the few and only out there talking about this kind of stuff. And there were a couple others, but they would never have gotten the notoriety they did had I not done all these conferences. Because what the conferences did is they got people in the media industry, radio, interested in the subject. And I actually know there were 3 or 4 people each conference from television shows.
Wow.
There. Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's really cool.
I know that it spurred on this type of awareness of that kind of stuff. Now, whether these people are crazy and whether they're actually doing what they say they're doing or whatever, not my issue. My issue was, and I knew it at the time, was to get out there and get people to understand that this goes on. Okay?
Right.
Whether it's only for them or it's only real in their reality, you know, I don't know. But I think there's a lot more to it than we know about. Right. It's just my opinion. Okay?
So this was the secret space program kind of way before, you know, Corey Goode came out with that.
Exactly. Yeah, I was doing, I wanted people to know that there were other dimensional lives that I thought the aliens or the government or whatever was propelling people into without their knowledge. Now, whether it's 20 and back, I don't know. Whether they're just using hypnotic drugs to make them do things that they would not normally do while they're serving in the military, I don't know. You guys, I don't know, because I have heard, you wouldn't believe the things I have heard during just those 4 or 5 years I was involved in that heavy.
Yeah.
And I also brought in targeted individuals, because at that time, mind control, targeted individuals, and super soldiers were all interconnected in a very bizarre way. Because you hear about a targeted individual who had just left the military and he had 6 months of missing time. And I'm thinking, now wait a minute, why are they targeting this poor guy? Well, it's because they're trying to shut him up from ever exposing what they did to him in the military that he doesn't even know about.
Yeah. Melinda has like this huge list of people that she thinks that's happened to. And I was looking through that list, and it's insane. Like, one guy was gone for like 2 years, or he had like 2 years worth of missing time.
What?
Years. I know his name. Nunez is his last name.
That's it. That's who it was. Yeah.
Yep, and the guy, I mean, literally 3 years. He goes off and he signs this document in the military for a special program, walks out the door. That's the last thing he remembers. 3 years later, he wakes up washing dishes at his parents' house.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's insane.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
there's people who have these stories, and there seems to be quite a few of them. You know, at what point do you say, okay, all of these people are making it up? You know?
That's right. That's why in 2010, I thought, you know what, something's got to be done about this because no one's really talking about it. And it took me until 2012 to actually put on the first conference. But it was just right after my experience in 2009 where I almost died. And I finally figured out, it took me 5 to 6 years to really come to grips with it, that I had been poisoned, that I was deliberately trying to be killed.
Whoa.
And that's part of it too, because they know, and this is what my CIA buddy told me after many years of me in denial about what happened to me, knowing full well that deep down inside something was very wrong about my illness.
Yeah.
Okay. He said to me on the phone after I had talked about my illness, have I ever told you guys what happened to me?
No, you haven't said it. You haven't said anything. I think on the last podcast you were going to get into it.
Okay, I should tell you guys about it because it's not phenomenal. It's just important. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's what happens. It's 2009. It's the end of July. The last couple days of July, we get a hot spell in Marin County, and I'm going into my bedroom to turn on the air conditioner in the bedroom, and it's the first time I've turned it on all year. And my first thought was, as I grabbed the remote, was I shouldn't be in here breathing this air because it's going to be dusty. Okay, I'm thinking that, and I got to get out of the room. So I'm thinking, hold your breath. And then instead of holding my breath like an idiot, I turn it on and I take a deep breath by accident. And something hits the back of my throat, and it feels like a bug has hit the back of my throat. That's the only way I can describe it. And I kept having to try to swallow to get rid of it. I kept going, ew, it's a bug. And I'm running around going, I swallowed the bug. And I'm acting all weird. And then about 5 minutes later, the sensation's gone, and I forget about it. Okay, within 48 hours, I'm laying in bed, I wake up, and I am sick as a dog. That's all I can think is, oh my God, I'm sick as a dog. And now this was a Wednesday, it's now Friday, I've got a fever, I've got chills, I'm like, oh my God, I don't feel good. I thought, well, there's the H1N1s going around. Now that was the summer, it was very bad. And I thought, I better get to the hospital. So I did. I actually didn't go to the hospital. I went to a clinic. And the clinic said, oh, you've got the flu, but it doesn't look like it's H1N1. If you had H1N1, you'd be a lot sicker, and this would be going on, and blah, blah, blah. Just go home, take care of yourself. You'll be fine. So I go home. Now Monday rolls around, and I am sicker than a dog. And now my fever's up to 103, and I'm starting to have weird wheezing, and I'm just not feeling good. So I go to the ER, and the ER says, oh, you're fine, you don't have H1N1, blah, 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 go home. If you get any worse, come back. Okay, so now it's Wednesday. It's now the first week of August. It's now Wednesday, and I'm not feeling good. I wake up, and I can barely tell where I'm at anymore. I've got now 103.5, 104 temperature going on all the time, and now my lungs are starting to hurt, and I hurt everywhere in my body, and I can barely walk. Dang. And my roommate now takes me to ER again. They take an x-ray, and they said, oh, you've got the beginnings, the very slight beginnings of pneumonia. You probably have H1N1, but we can't be for sure unless we take all kinds of samples. But we're not going to do that. It's probably nothing. You're probably just getting pneumonia. And here you go, take these pills. So I take a bunch of antibiotics, and they give me one there. I take another one when I get home, blah, blah, blah. Well, now it's Wednesday. Now it's Friday. The antibiotics have done nothing, absolutely nothing. And I did this, but I'm told that my roommate finds me on the floor by my bed, and I'm telling him to get the geese to stop flying out of my chest.
Whoa. Damn.
And yeah, I was hallucinating. I was hallucinating geese flying out of my chest. It was really cool, actually, I got to tell you. And flocks of geese flying out of my belly. It was really neat. Anyhow, and then I kept telling him, tell the baby next door to stop crying. Well, I kept thinking there was a baby next door, and there's no baby, there's no house, right? I'm just like, I'm hearing a baby. It turns out what I was actually hearing was all the sounds in my lungs.
Whoa.
In my head. Yeah, because you can hear, they get really loud in your head when your lungs are all full of gunk. I didn't know that. Anyhow, so that's what I was hearing, but apparently I didn't know it. I was so stoned on, having a very high fever that I didn't realize what was going on.
Right.
And so he gets me in the car, and he says, I pulled up to the ER, and there was a bay where they could see out the windows to the cars pulling up. And he said, I saw the doctor that worked on you Wednesday, and he took one look at you in the car, and he dropped what he was doing with the patient almost immediately and almost sprinted to the nurse, grabbed a gurney, and was out by the car within a minute. He goes, within a minute or less, maybe 40 seconds.
That's service.
He says he knew you were dying. And he says, he said that to me. He goes, I think she's dying. And he said, my roommate didn't know how bad it was. And so they actually put me in a wheelchair because I couldn't get up on the gurney, and I'm too big to be, lifting up on it. So they put me in a wheelchair. They got me into the room. Then I kind of helped them get me up onto the bed. I do remember that. And the next thing I know, he says, the doctor's looking at me. I do remember this. He slams me down on the bed. He pushes on my chest and just pushes me flat on the bed. He says, turn your head to the left. I do. And he goes, this is going to hurt. And I'm like, huh? And before I can even realize what's going on, and this is kind of gross, folks, so close your ears if you don't want to hear it, but they take a scalpel and they cut into my jugular vein, and they put like an 8-inch pipe down into my heart, or down towards my heart. And then they stitched it in. They put what they call a port on it, and what it does is it ports out three. It had 3 nozzles out. So, and then they hooked up 3 bags of 3 different antibiotics, and these 3 nurses, I swear to God, are standing by the bed holding these bags, trying to pump all this into me as fast as they could.
Wow.
The reason why is because they don't know which one's going to work, because obviously the pills did not work at all.
Yeah.
Okay? So they don't know what to do now. And my blood oxygen was down to like 2 or 3. And you're dead at 1.
Yeah,
so I'm like,
that's not good.
So they're doing everything they can to get my heart to pump these antibiotics in to kill whatever is in me that's killing me. So the next thing I remember is I'm in the elevator on a gurney, stretched out, looking at the doors that are opening to the ICU. I don't know it's the ICU at the time. All I know is there's nurses all around me, and they're pushing this thing, and I'm in it. So the doors open, and it's like, I swear to God, it was just like a movie. I saw this guy standing at the door, and it was Jerry Garcia, and I'm like, oh my God, I said,
nice.
Jerry, am I dead? And he goes, well, not quite yet. I said, oh, I'm in hell then, huh? And he goes, no. He goes, no. He goes, I go, purgatory. He goes, no, not purgatory. And the nurses are all laughing. This he's in a nurse's outfit, right? But it's Jerry Garcia. I swear to God, it's Jerry Garcia. And he takes my bed and he rolls it out, and the nurses go back down the elevator, and there I am with Jerry Garcia rolling me through the halls in the ICU into a room. I'm like, Jerry, what's it like? I go, this isn't where I was before. And he's like laughing. I'm like, why are you laughing? And he goes, because I'm not Jerry Garcia. I'm Jerry Garcia impersonator, and I'm a nurse.
No way! That's amazing.
I swear to God, this guy looks just like Jerry Garcia.
God.
And part-time job as a Jerry Garcia impersonator, and he is a full-time ICU nurse.
He's like, we're living on red, vitamin C, and cocaine. Let's go.
Like, I'm in Marin County, in the Marin County Hospital, and Jerry Garcia's there. It all made sense to me.
Oh
Come
my
on.
God! I gotta say, if I'm ever dying, I hope Jerry Garcia is there wheeling me around before I go.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's the funny part about it, man. I'm going to tell you, I was in so much pain and I was so out of it, and I started laughing, and I couldn't believe I was actually dying and laughing at the same time. It was just
dying laughing.
I was thinking, I thought that to myself later. I thought, God, I could have died laughing right there in the ICU over Jerry Garcia's lookalike. You know, seriously. And then he says to me before he leaves the room, he goes, "Do you want a priest or anybody to come see you?" Now I'm scared, okay? Because I'm like, why is he asking me if I need a priest?
Yeah, that's not good.
His first words were, "What faith are you?" And I said, "Well, I used to be Catholic." And he goes, "Well, do you want a priest?" I said, "I don't know. Do I need one?" Yeah, might. A lot of people like that. I found out much later that they thought I was not going to make it through the night.
Wow.
So, you know.
Dang.
So they did. They sent a Unitarian woman. She was a person at the hospital at that time, and she came in to see me and asked me how I was doing and if I felt, you know, like if something happened, who would I contact, and if I needed anything. And I just said, look, I said, I've been there before. I know where I'm going. I'm going to be happy. And she goes, oh, that's wonderful. And we had a nice little chat for about 10 minutes, and then she left. And I thought, you know, well, if I die, I die. And if I don't, I don't. So there you go. And I just went to sleep. And the next thing I knew, well, here's the part that really scared me, is I woke up the next day, and I'm still sick, but not as sick. And all these people that come in the room, they're staying 6 feet away from me, and they're all wearing a plastic shield over themselves in white outfits.
Damn, that's not good either.
Death. And I found out later, much later, that I had triggered a CDC alert because they thought I had some kind of mutant H1N1.
Whoa. Dang.
I didn't know. So I'm stuck in this place for 3 days while they're trying to figure out what I've got, and they can't figure it out. And they kept coming in and trying to get blood and spit, and, you know, I mean, God, it was a nightmare. I finally, by the third day, I'm feeling much better because one of the antibiotics is working. So, and they kind of narrowed it down through a blood sample which one was working, and they kept me on it. And then they put me in a private room away from everybody else for 2 more weeks. Wow. So I was stuck in that hospital for 17 days, and I got to tell you, it wasn't fun nor pretty. But they wouldn't let anybody see me, and they all, every time someone came in, they were 10 feet away from me most of the time, except for by the second week when I was getting better, the X-ray guy he would come by the side of the bed and take my X-rays and stuff. He wasn't too freaked out. Neither was the nice lady. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, and they never really knew what I had. And I leave the hospital going, oh, okay, so they didn't know what I had. I probably had H1N1, but, you know, who cares, right? So a year goes by, and I'm getting sick again. And I thought the last thing they told me when I left the hospital was, if you ever get a cold and whatever in the future, you might develop pneumonia right away, so get to the hospital if you feel funny. And I thought, well, okay, I'm feeling kind of funny again a year later. I thought, I'm starting to get what I think was bronchitis at the time. And I get to the ER, and they say, oh, just, you know, sit here, we'll get someone in to see in a minute. And this doctor comes in. Now, I've been a frequent flyer at this ER for years. Okay, I know. They all know me, you know, whatever. But I'd never seen this doctor before. And she pops in and she goes, hi, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I said, well, I've never seen you here before. And she goes, yeah. She goes, I'm doing a rotation. I'm a military. I just got out of the military. I was serving at Fort Detrick. I was doing infectious medicine. Uh-oh. And I'm now traveling the United States looking for the hospital I want to become an ER doc in. And she goes, I'll be here 3 months. And I said, oh, that's great. I go, well, hopefully I'll never see you again. And she goes, yeah. She goes, yeah. She goes, let me see what's going on with you. She goes, oh, I see you were in here last year for quite some time and very sick. She goes, let me go get your x-rays. And I said, okay, fine. Now, if you guys know this, they don't do x-rays on film anymore. They print it out. Right. So it goes in your file. Okay. So she brings this file in with a printout of my x-rays. And I'm looking at it, and she's looking at it. And I went, that's weird, because my sister's a doctor. I know what pneumonia looks like in your lungs. It's big black spots of water in your lungs, and sometimes little bits of white where there's mucus and stuff built into it with the water, and that's how you drown, right? You basically drown. I didn't have that. You know what I had? This will blow your mind. They were solid white balls, and they looked like golf balls or cotton balls, all stuffed at the bottom of my lungs, like 2/3 of my lungs.
Whoa.
She's looking at it, and I'm looking at it. She goes, "Oh my God!" She goes, "I don't know what this is." And then she's kind of talking under her breath, right? And then she looked at me, and she looked back down at the thing, and she goes, "God, if I didn't know better, I'd swear this is man-made. I don't know what this is." Wow. And she caught herself. She said, "Man-made," and I felt her kind of like, like, why did I say that?
Yeah.
And I'm like. I looked at her, and she looked at me, and she kind of got off the side of the bed, and she said, "You know what? You're going to be just fine. I don't see your x-ray." Oh, they'd taken an x-ray. She goes, "Your x-rays are totally clear. You're totally fine." She goes, "If you get any sicker, though, you come back." And she goes, "I'm not even going to give you any antibiotics. I think you're going to be fine." And she walks away, and that's the last I ever saw of that chick. But that little thing of, like, that looks man-made to me kind of just, it just started to enforce the fact that there was something wrong with my illness, okay?
Yeah.
So then here it gets better. It's just, it never stops. So, it's still 2 and a half or 3 years later, I'm sitting there at my desk, my phone rings. It's one of my friends who used to be in the military, and he's panting. And I go, "What in the hell are you panting for, and why are you calling me panting like that?" I don't expect panting unless it's in my bedroom. And he starts laughing. He goes, "That's not why I'm calling you." I said, "I know that. Anyhow, we were laughing about that, and he goes, "No, I just got back from my hairdresser's." I said, "You're so weird." I said, "Are you gay?" I was just giving him that time. And he goes, no, my hairdresser's a woman. I said, "Okay, fine." He goes, "I gotta tell you something." He goes, "Stop joking around. I gotta tell you something." And this is a friend of mine that I was very close to, and he never believed my story about what happened with the H1N1 thing and me being something wrong with the whole picture, right? He never believed me. And he goes, "I'm starting to believe your story about something happening to you." And I said, "Why? Why suddenly you now believe?" He goes, "Let me tell you what just happened." He goes, "I was at my hairdresser's. I'm sitting in the chair, and we're talking about the military." And she says, "Oh, yeah, it's right. You did serve, didn't you? And you were over at the Presidio, weren't you?" And he goes, Yeah, I was at the Presidio in San Francisco." And she goes, "Yeah, I was living on the base for a while." He goes, "You were what?" And he goes, "Civilians don't live there." She goes, "They do if your boyfriend's in special ops." And he goes, "What? Your boyfriend was special ops?" She goes, "Yeah, he moved me into this they had trailers, for traveling, soldiers that were doing different odd jobs for housing for them." He goes, "Yeah, they moved me in and no one said a word." And he goes, "Yeah, he had a friend that used to come by, and they had this odd job in the military." She goes, "I thought, where they would go around fixing air conditioners at the different bases."
What?
And she goes, "One morning, I'm laying in bed," and I don't know why she told him this, and thank God she did. That's all I got to say at this point. Because I'm laying in bed, and the door is open to the bedroom, and I can hear them talking in the kitchen. She goes, and I was awake for some reason. I had woken up, and they started talking about how they're going to hit their target today and how much in the canister they're going to need to take this guy out. And she's like, "Oh, damn, they're killing people. They're doing their special ops, but they're doing it in another whole way." She goes,
"Oh, shit."
I put 2 and 2 together, and what they were doing is they were going around spraying stuff in people's air conditioners and killing them with a type of Legionnaire's disease type of thing. That's what she thought at the time, and it was during the Legionnaire time. So she's like, "Oh my God, they're killing people." And she left that guy. She was out of there. She packed her bags, was out of that building before he got home from work that day.
Oh,
okay?
my God.
she told this to my friend out of the blue, and she says, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I think it's important that somebody know that there were guys out there in the military killing people back in the 70s or 80s or whatever it was. And he said, I swear to God, Lorien, I paid her. And she was done with my hair. I paid her, and I ran home to call you. She goes, and he said, I believe you now. She goes, he goes, I just can't believe that happened. And I'm finally opening my eyes to the fact that you could very well have been a target. And I'm going, oh, okay. So that's strike 2 or 3, right? I'm like, okay. And now I'm kind of flipped out because I'm thinking, well, why would anybody want to hurt me or whatever? And then another year and a half goes by, and I'm on my radio show over at, I did a conspiracy show about targeted individuals, super soldiers, mind control, all kinds of things over on the Pegasus Radio Network and Veterans Truth Network. It was simulcast on both of them, and I was the only person on the networks that wasn't a veteran. And Chip Tatum, he is an ex-CIA operative, brought me into to the program, and he was our producer, and he would listen to the show while he was doing it, whatever. And I told this story up to this point one night on the show, and he types into Skype. As you guys know, there's a place you can communicate with each other typing. And he's typed in there, stay on after, in capital letters with a whole bunch of exclamation points. And I'm like, okay. And I type back, okay. So the guest gets off the air, and then Chip gets on, and he says to me, and he gave me permission to say this live on air whenever I want. He says to me, Lorien, they gave you the fizzies. And I said, what? Gene, what are you talking about? And he goes, they gave you the fizzies. The fizzies were developed in 1952, 3 or 4. And he goes, I honestly can't remember what year, but I know it was 1952, 3 or 4. And it was developed by the CIA. It's a combination of fungus, something that creates mucus, strep, pneumonia mostly, and a bunch of other things, right? He goes, it's all of it. It's all put together in one, and it was developed by the CIA to kill presidents and other people we don't like anymore.
Holy crap. Oh my God.
I said, what? And I'm like freaking out now. And he goes, yeah, it's absolutely true. He goes, I've killed people with it twice.
Whoa!
He goes, they 72 hours of breathing it in. And it's encapsulated bacteria that dissolves in your throat or your mucous membranes of your nose or your mouth. And I said, oh my God. I said, Jesus, are you kidding me? And he goes, no. And he goes, the part about the air conditioner is classic. That's how they used to do it in the old days. They don't do it like that now, but they did it in the old days that way. He goes, and they were experimenting with Legionnaire's disease early on in the early 70s on how to get it out there with an air arsenal. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? No. And then I got real quiet, and I thought to myself, I said, Gene, why would they do that to me? I hadn't even opened my mouth. Nobody knew who I was in 2009. I hadn't even done anything, and I was completely quiet. I wasn't rocking the boat. I wasn't pissing anybody off. I wasn't doing this yet. And he laughed and he said, they know the future, don't you?
What?
And I'm like, oh my God. He said, remote viewing program. He goes, absolutely. He goes, your name starts popping up in their minds in 2010, and from that point on, they're like, "Oh, we got to get rid of this chick before she even opens her mouth."
Holy crap! My God!
Yeah, I'm like, oh. So this is what our now, and the reason I'm telling this to everybody, not that I care about me, or I care about the fact that they look into the future to figure out who to get rid of so they don't have any problems. That's the part that pissed me off.
Dude. That is pretty mind-blowing.
So, I guess we should end the show like that.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I'm speechless. I mean, it does make sense. I mean, if you're going to kill somebody or assassinate somebody, when it comes up on the autopsy report, oh, they died of pneumonia, no one's going to ask questions.
Right. That's exactly what Chip said. He goes, everybody thinks they died of pneumonia. He goes, you remember all those guys down in South America in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that they were older, so they, like 40s and 50s, and they suddenly get sick and they end up in the hospital and they die of pneumonia?
Holy
he goes, that
crap.
was us.
Dude.
We were killing guys.
God. Wow.
So the government killed Bernie Mac.
No!
God.
You know what? I'm laughing, but you know what? They may have.
I mean, the dude was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he may have been, we don't know what he may have done in the future. See, that's the whole thing.
Holy
You don't
crap.
know because he killed them. I mean, I'm not kid, and I'm not saying they killed John Belushi, and I'm not saying they killed everybody, but I'm just saying you never know. One of 20 people that has died kind of like weirdly.
Yeah.
You might just ask yourself, maybe that person in the future might be causing us some problems. And you got to remember, this isn't the first time they played this game. This game has been going on a long time, starting in 1963 when Judith Ferry Baker, David Ferry, and all those guys in New Orleans were making the fast-acting cancer that killed Jack Ruby as their first guinea pig.
Right.
And from that on, Martha Mitchell was next. I mean, I can go down the list of people I know they gave fast-acting cancer to in their 30s and 40s or early 50s that had no sicknesses, no illness, were nothing, and those people are dead in 6 to 8 weeks.
Holy
So
crap.
don't tell me they've been playing this game for a long time. Back then, they got rid of them when they started opening their mouth. Then they got smart with the remote viewing program and said, well, why do we have to do it after they've caused the damage? Let's get rid of them before they cause it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the remote viewing and stuff, like it has to be pretty credible to be able to rely on it. I mean, if they weren't positively sure.
I gotta say, I'm not saying that's my friends that were in the remote viewing, because I know a lot of people that were involved in all the remote viewing programs, and these guys would never do anything like that.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, it doesn't mean they didn't have a covert, simultaneous operation going on where people were doing that kind of remote viewing.
Wow.
Man. Well, so this last summer, my AC went out, and I was really, really upset. And I had the shittiest AC guy I've ever had, and I was really upset about it. But now, after hearing that story, I'm really excited I had the shittiest AC guy I've ever had.
Like, it wasn't some dude in a suit.
Because he didn't do anything. He was like, did you change your filter?
Yeah, I remember when
Oh, my God.
Oh, shoot. Now this is really funny. I don't think they're doing it like that anymore, to be honest with you. I just got to throw that out there. What I think they're doing now is, I think if they are still doing this dark, what I call the dark RV program, and they are...
Uh-oh.
I think we lost her.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Microphone device changed to Bluetooth?
I hope not. Did her phone?
Oh, maybe her headset fell out or something?
Maybe. Well,
Hello?
let's try and get her back really quick so we can kind of wrap this up and she can...
That type of thing.
Here we go.
Like they did that. Do you remember the guy in Europe with his daughter that got that plutonium or uranium or some kind of horrible poisoning that they did to him? That was quite public, but man, what a way to go. I mean, it gets you fast.
Whoa.
I want to, yeah, so a thing changed on my computer and we lost you for a second. My microphone, for some reason, my speakers canceled, so we didn't catch that last part. Would you mind saying that again? Oh,
it happened again.
Speakers built in? No? External?
You guys, it might be at my end. It might be my stuff going... wanky again.
Yeah, it was totally on my side for sure. Like the audio settings for some reason changed.
It's the CIA.
They're
fucking with us.
We're getting too close.
You guys, it may be, because I'm telling you, I don't talk about this much, and when I do, things start happening. I forgot. That's why I haven't talked about it much.
That's pretty creepy.
That is crazy. That is insane.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Like it said, it switched, like the microphone and the speaker switched to Bluetooth for some reason. I don't know what that was about.
Well, I want to tell you guys, I had an event where Terry Lovelace was talking to us, and everything was fine, and everything's set up just fine. It's all perfect. There's not a problem. We're an hour and a half into it, and I bring up the question of, do you see any human beings on the ship wearing military outfits? And he answers the question, and within 5 seconds of him answering yes to that question and starting to tell us what they looked like and what they were wearing, the computer got a feedback loop sound that was so painful to our ears. Ooh. and brought out the black screen of death to my computer, which never started up again. Dude. And then I took it in to get repaired, and here's what he kept looking at the motherboard like what the hell? And he brought me over and he said, look at this. And I went, what? And he goes, look down at these little condensers here on this one little chip. And I'm going, yeah. He goes, they're melted. I go, well, that's not a big deal, right? It could get hot, they could melt. He goes, no, they're the only ones melted, and it's only this solder that melted. And he goes, because that's a different kind of solder they use on just that one chip because it's so tiny, it can't take the other kind. I went, what? And I go, you're right. And he goes, yeah. He goes, only that one's melted.
What?
And I said, so could they, and I looked at him and said, could they send a frequency or an electrical pulse through my computer at the right frequency to melt that solder? He goes, well, I've never thought about it, but yeah, why not?
Wow.
Damn.
Oh, man.
I mean, who knows? Who knows, man?
I know. I'm just like, okay, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, maybe it just melted there, I don't know, but, it just seemed weird to me that we're talking about the military on the spacecraft that are human, that are part of this abduction scenario, and then suddenly everything goes fried.
Right. That is crazy. Wow. Well, I heard one of your last rants where your computer got messed up and you took it to Geek Squad and you had to have an appointment, so I hope you didn't take that computer to Geek Squad.
No, I took it to my friend who has a computer shop near me. But yeah, no, if it hadn't been 7 or 8 o'clock at night when my computer croaked the last time, I wouldn't have been a damn Geek Squad. No, they did me so good. I was so mad at the Geek Squad. I hate saying that, but
that's a shout out to Staples.
Yeah, shout out to Staples Tech dudes. Yeah, they were wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if you're in the rant. I'm like, but it's a power supply. It takes 3 minutes to swap out. And the guy's looking at me, and he goes, well, I'm sorry, but if you wait in line, you're never going to get served. And I thought, God, what a horrible place to work where you got to tell people.
Yeah.
It sucks. And then to call Staples on the phone, and the guy goes, oh, yeah, we can swap it out. It'll take 3 minutes. I'm thinking, okay, I found reality again.
Seriously.
Yeah. They're on drugs or something.
Gotta have an appointment.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyhow, are you guys happy? Are we done? Shall we move on?
That was great.
Yeah. In 30 days?
Yeah.
No, super excited.
Stoked.
Super excited.
My brain's a little exploded right now. It's just that was
a great ending to that for sure.
Yeah, seriously. I think one of my chips fried.
Yeah, I hope you liked it, and I hope it helps your audience, because that's really what it's all about. They need to be aware that there is good, there is evil, and they just got to navigate it all.
Absolutely.
That's a great message.
We've got great listeners, so they're gonna love this for sure. For sure.
Okay, dears. Well, have a good one. Is there anything else you need before we check out here?
Go on ahead and plug UFO Con.
Okay, I will. UFOcon2020.com. Check that out. And there are some amazing speakers. The UFO Garage guys will be in the atrium lobby right outside of the Peninsula Ballroom where all the speakers are going to be, and you'll have to go right past them every time you want to go to the vendor room or up to your room. So they're going to see plenty of you, and you're going to see plenty of them, and you guys are going to have a good time. So please be there. Oh, 2 quick things. If you want a discount to the conference. I'm offering discounts of $20 off of the regular price until January 31st. And in order to get that discount, it's a coupon code, and it is 20, that's 20, speaker, SPEAKER, in capital letters and all run together. So 20 SPEAKER in caps, and you will get $20 off of the regular price for the full weekend. I do hope to see you guys there. And the final note is the rooms at the discounted price at the hotel go off completely on February 1st. So by January 31st, you have to make your reservation at the discounted price. So there you go.
Perfect.
Pretty easy and pretty affordable, and I hope you guys are there because we're going to have a blast.
Absolutely. Woo! I'm stoked. I'm so excited. Only a month away.
Yep.
Yeah.
And don't forget to send us the George Norrie thing.
Yeah. Go ahead and email us that instead of doing it through Skype. Maybe it'll go through.
Yeah, I'll try to figure out. If not, I'll Dropbox it to you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, so great to talk to you, Lorien. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, we will, and I'll get you that ad, and we're all good. And I'll see you guys there because I may not have time to talk to you before then. Okay?
Perfect.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Right on.
Dude, I mean, holy crap.
I mean, it went in so many different directions. I loved that one, man. That was great.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I was thinking, you know how she was talking about the eye-to-eye contact and how some people, like the gray, will stare at you, like he'll be standing by the bedside,
yeah,
and you look, and then he stares at you and gets closer to you.
Right.
Well, I was wondering what happens if it startles you and like you burp in his face on accident first. Like, would it like throw it off?
Yeah.
You think, or you think he would stare harder? You think he'd be like,
oh God, that stinks.
Slap your face? He would be like, with all three of his big ass fingers.
I'm thinking like if you see an alien, well, just close your eyes and they can't take you.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's why instinctually when you're a kid and you're afraid, you get under the covers.
You're like,
like that's like instinctually that's what you do.
Because if you close your eyes and you can't see anything, it can't hurt you.
Yeah, dude.
There's got to be something to that, man.
Bro, yeah, that was the first time I've heard of that method, like the eye contact.
Whew, that was nuts, dude. That whole killing you before you even become a problem thing.
Bro.
What?
That's like
what?
I mean, man, yeah, I can understand that.
I can too.
Yeah.
Like, I think like to regular people they'll be like, that doesn't make any fucking sense, right? But dude, I mean, as much as we've looked into this, like nothing
really
sounds crazy anymore.
It really doesn't.
You know what I'm saying? Like it all kind of makes sense. And yeah, it is. She's exactly right. It is all connected. All of it, dude.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Crazy, dude. I love it.
It's crazy.
I love having her on the show, man.
Me
She's
too.
got I want to talk about JFK next time. I really want to know.
We'll get into that for sure. Yeah, dude. She's one of my favorites. And do you ever like after she finishes talking, like I feel like I almost like ran a marathon. Like,
yeah.
You're just like, what? Because you're like, very rarely do I focus on something like very, like very focused.
Yeah.
But when she speaks, like I pay attention.
Dude, yeah. I mean, when we watch this video, my face is going to be like very focused the whole time. Like I'm probably not smiling at all.
Yeah,
I'm just
dude.
so focused on what she's trying to say.
Yep, she's one of my favorites. I can't wait to see her at the conference. Guys, if y'all get a chance and you want to come out to California, or you're already from California, you better come out and see us, man.
Yeah, that'd be sick. Grab a beer. We'll talk about all kinds of stuff. We can
UFOs, aliens, and all things weird.
Aliens, all things we heard.
Yes, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Man, that was a great episode.
That was great. I can't believe it's only a month away.
Me either.
That's pretty insane. This like these past few months have just flown by. It's been crazy.
Yeah, they really have.
Yeah.
They really have.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
I'm expecting on all you folks out there to buy me a beer.
Yeah.
Whenever I get there.
We require free drinks, please.
beers and hot pockets.
I was at a music venue a couple years ago, and this funk / blues band was playing, and they played this song like halfway through their set, and it was like whiskey for the band. And they played that until somebody bought them whiskey, like a shot each. They were like, we're going to keep playing the song until somebody buys the shots. Like, isn't that fucking awesome?
Oh, that's great, dude. Yeah. That's great, man.
Yeah, that's great. All right, man. Well, dude, what do you think?
Yeah, I have nothing else to say.
Yeah.
My mind is...
Yeah.
Exploded.
It's exploded.
You
guys check out UFOGaragePC.com for our merch. If you guys want a shirt, we got a new shirt. I forget the gentleman's name that reached out. Let me. Oh, it was I think it was Luke, right? His name was Luke.
Maybe.
One second.
We're on the.
Here we go. Yeah, Luke. Yeah, Luke hit me up about a T-shirt idea, and he was like, "Dude, I don't have the means to do this, but it would be cool if you put together a shirt that looks like an alien is being abducted by a human." So I put the Impala on there on the shirt, abducting an alien. It looked pretty cool.
I wish there was a way that we could put us inside the Impala one day. That would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely fool around with that. Yeah, I would like to do a one color version of us,
or like just the front of the Impala, and in the windshield you see our heads.
That's a great idea,
right?
Well, we could do that.
Hell yeah, that would be sick. We should do that.
Let's do it.
All right, man. Well, that's it for me, dude.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
All right, great episode.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lorien Fenton.
Thank you so much. And guys, check out Lorien Fenton on KCOR, The Fenton Files. Dude, if you liked what she had to say on our show, just listen to what she says on her own show.
Yeah.
It's insane. I love that show.
Yeah.
So go check it out, and also keep checking us out. All right?
Keep checking us out.
UFO Garage. Talk to you next time.